What's going on, everyone? Yes, as you can see, John is not hosting today. Welcome to episode 87, I want to say, of the XboxEra podcast. I'm your host today, Special Nick, and of course, I'm very happy to have my good friend MVG on today. Dim, how are you, mate?
What's up, Nick? Thanks for having me on again. Third time this year, right?
Yeah.
Number 3.
You're officially an XboxEra All-Star now.
Perfect.
And I'm very, very happy you wore your ugly Xbox Christmas sweater.
I told you that I would, Nick.
Yeah. I'm glad you followed through. That's why I had to wear this hat, because I needed to keep up with the Christmas theme that you've got going.
Awesome. Well, it's great to be here, and thanks for having me on again. Always enjoy
mate.
hanging out with you guys. Where's John, by the way? What's he doing?
Yes, so that's a weird story. John had like a Halo weekend, I want to say.
Yep.
I think they got like an apartment or something, and a whole bunch of them are playing Halo. But the weird part is, like, the Xbox Live friend list thing shows what you're playing, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And he was playing campaign. And I'm like, hold on, there's no co-op in the campaign. If you guys are all in an apartment playing Halo, aren't you meant to be doing multiplayer? Like, I had a Halo night on Friday night, and we were all playing Halo multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw him playing campaign, and then I saw him playing Killer Queen Black, and I'm like, why is this guy skipping the podcast for? What's going on?
No worries. I mean, if it's a mental health break or whatever, I mean, you gotta respect that. So I know he's been very busy with everything, plus the book as well. Which, by the way, congrats on the Kickstarter, which got funded. So
yes. Thank you.
So exciting times.
we're jumping ahead there, but yes, thank you very much.
Sorry, did I break a story that I wasn't supposed to?
No, not at all, not at all. But since we're talking about John playing Halo, we may as well start there. What have you been playing? Have you been playing Halo?
Yeah, I got the campaign when it came out. So I've been playing multiplayer. I started pretty slow on multiplayer, so I'm like, I think I'm like level 16 on the battle pass. I'm not that high into it. I know other people that have maxed it out already and stuff.
Really?
But yeah, Gene Park from Washington Post, he's maxed out.
Oh my god!
So there's a few that are grinding. So I've been playing the multiplayer for the last few weeks, and I mean it's really, really good, as you know. I mean, there's also, I guess, parts of it that need to be addressed as well, which they'll address in due course, I'm sure. But when the campaign dropped, I did download it and I started playing it, and I really like it. But I also want to say this, and I want to upset anyone.
No, go.
I'm getting that open world fatigue,
Okay.
I'm getting that fatigue where it's like, I go to this base and I clear it out. Now I jump in my mongoose and go to the next base, clear it out. I love the game, and I think the combat, the gameplay, the gunplay, I mean, it's phenomenal. The story is what's got me interested in where it goes, because I don't know anything about the story. I'm kind of, just going through it right now. And look, I really enjoy it, but I am getting that fatigue with open world games. I don't do very well with open world games, man. Like,
I normally don't either. Don't either.
Another controversial opinion, but Ghost of Tsushima was a game that everyone loved. I thought it was fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was like amazing. I just got that fatigue again. So, but I'm gonna keep playing through it. I love it. I want to finish the game, of course, and see where it takes me. But yeah, that's all I've been playing, really. Halo. That's obviously the big game that's been out recently. So
no, I mean, I understand that. I mean, I've said many times on here that I'm starting to get over the open world thing as well, but I mean, there are always exceptions to the rule. I'm finding with Halo, I'm having that thing where I want to jump back in and just search around.
Yeah.
And I think it's because when you bring up the map, you don't see 4,073 icons.
Yep.
That just hits you and overwhelms you. And I think that's why I'm not having as much of an issue. And of course, the grapple hook makes getting around the world amazing. Like, I kind of know what Jeff Grubb was getting at when he talked about the Breath of the Wild stuff. Like, and I've seen a lot of people getting upset at the Breath of the Wild thing, but I think what Jeff was speaking about was about the systems and how everything is going on despite the fact that you're not there, and the havoc that you can wreak, and how you can just go anywhere and do anything. But yeah, I don't know. The grapple hook, it's sort of like, it's such a natural part of it now that I don't understand how it wasn't in Halo before Infinite.
I agree.
Like, it's just, it feels amazing.
It is fantastic, and I do love that exploration aspect to the game where you can literally go anywhere on the map.
Yeah.
And yes, very much, shades of Breath of the Wild where you could, go anywhere you wanted to. So I really like what they've done there. What did you think of you've been playing it, right? What did you think of the first kind of area of the game, where it sets up the story, where you're in that kind of dungeon area?
The linear part.
Yeah, the linear part. What did you think of that? Like, because I thought that was really, really good. Because I know some people didn't care for it as much. They wanted to just get into the open world immediately. But I thought it was actually quite good, and it really got me hooked into the game quickly.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. It was, I guess you could call it your tutorial level. It was the part that was just introducing you to the game and to the mechanics and the ping system and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I had no issue with it. It's similar to how Halo 4 started. Halo 4 started kind of like that, and then it just sort of dropped you onto the ring or whatever world you were on. I'm liking it. I've got my only issues at the moment as a sort of OCD weirdo that has to collect everything. Like, I'm not moving through the story. I'm doing each section fully before I move on. So I'm getting all the collectibles, then going to the next part, getting all the collectibles, then the next part. the audio logs, they don't show up on the map. So you have to wander around aimlessly trying to find them, which is a little bit frustrating.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I'm loving it.
Yep.
And the boss fights are cool, and I don't know, it feels like there's enough variety in the side missions to not get bored as well. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And we had our Halo night on Friday night where we were just playing multiplayer. I figured out how to create SWAT.
Yep.
Because SWAT's my favorite Halo multiplayer, so I figured out how to create that, and we were playing SWAT as well, which was amazing. But it's funny, I've got like 4 battle passes going at the moment. So I've got the Halo one, and trust me, you being level 16, that's not low. Like with how bad the progression had been in that battle pass, 16's not that bad. I just got to 30, which I'm surprised about, but I've been playing it a lot. I've got the Fortnite battle pass, which because I wanted Spider-Man. I've got the Rocket League battle pass. And I've also got the Knockout City Battle Pass. I completely forgot and have not been playing that game at all. It's actually quite a fun game. But yeah, so I've just been trying to make my way through all those Battle Passes.
Yeah. I think that the game is excellent. You know, like I'm fully aware that the open world fatigue that I'm getting is really more about me than the game. And you're right. Like I think you brought up a really good point about Halo, and that is, it's not just like waypoints everywhere on a map like the Ubisoft.
Yeah.
They really kind of just open up a small subsection of the map for you. And they kind of continue to push you through kind of the main story anyway. Because I think if you do a lot of side things, eventually it's going to kind of put you back on the path. So they're doing some really interesting things with the open world that I'm not saying is kind of revolutionary or anything, but it's definitely something that is, you know, it's refreshing to see.
Refreshing. I was about to say refreshing.
Yeah. So they're definitely on the right path there. And, you know, I like you. I think the game is really good. No doubt.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I don't know what's happening in the story because I'm a serial cutscene skipper. So I actually have no idea what's going on.
Why?
I don't know. I just don't like. I play games to play games. I don't care about the movies. I don't care about the story. I just want to play the game. I'm the exact opposite. Like I want to know. I want a good story. I want a good narrative, a single player narrative in any game. Yeah. Most of the time, at least, anyway. Unless you know it's some dumb arcade shooter that has no story, right? I mean that's different. But like with Halo, you kind of I've been waiting for the campaign for years. I mean, we've all been waiting for Halo Infinite for years and years and years, right? Ever since it was first announced. You know, when is this game coming? And in some ways, it was almost surreal when the game actually dropped this week, the campaign. Yeah, I know. And they finally said it's, you know, the game's out, because it's like, you know, this is a game that's been in development for such a long time, you know. Yeah.
And based on everything that we've read and heard, it's a miracle almost that it actually shipped, you know. But it shipped in a really good state, and I think you know, it's not perfect, but I think there is, both on the single player side and the multiplayer side, they know what they need to do, and I'm sure next year they'll start addressing some of these things.
If there's one thing Microsoft has shown in the last, I'm going to say 2 years, it's that they know how to grow their game. So if you look at where Sea of Thieves started, where it is now, if you look at where State of Decay 2 started, where it is now, Grounded, Master Chief Collection, that went from a complete bordello to what it is now. It's just, they seem to know how to get their games improving and improving and improving. And given that it started in a pretty good spot, I expect that in a year or so's time, Halo Infinite will be like just unbelievable.
I mean, it's pretty well polished for what it is. I've had no crashes with the campaign. I've had a couple of those, and I don't know if
stutters.
Those stutters. There was one.
I've had two.
There was one that went for about 5 seconds, and I was convinced that the game had locked up, and then all of a sudden it just came back. And
Me
it's
too.
like, oh, that's weird. Okay.
Yes.
So obviously they have a few things they got to address, but overall it's been pretty solid for a version 1 of the game.
Yep. I had 2 of those faux crashes. Like I swore the game had locked up and like you, full 5 seconds. You could fully count to 5 or 6 and the game would then just all of a sudden come back.
Mm-hmm.
Just like that.
Yep.
But that's only happened a couple of times, so nothing too bad. But yeah, so it looks like Halo is basically all we've been playing.
Yep.
Now, there hasn't been a ton of news stuff. Like, I'm terrible at hosting, so this is probably going to be a super quick episode because I'm not good at creating tangents like John does. So, in terms of news, I was really scouring to find stuff. We were talking about Fortnite before. They've added, it's funny how life can come around full circle, and Epic has added the Gears of War characters into Fortnite. So it's like Epic has gone back to Gears in a weird way. So they added Marcus Phoenix and Kate Diaz into Fortnite, who I immediately went and wasted $25 on buying because that's just the idiot that I am. I'm trying to think. So Spider-Man's in that battle pass as well. And I don't know who else is coming. The Rock. The Rock will be coming. They've put The Rock in Fortnite as well.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
The Foundation or whatever his name is. So my kids got the battle pass as well. So they just want to get Spider-Man, but then they don't play it enough to actually unlock Spider-Man, which is a little bit silly. In other news, just to sort of breeze through, Banjo Kazooie for Nintendo Switch Online finally got confirmed for January, which is great. I mean, I've already got the game on 360 Arcade.
Yep.
And it's backwards compatible if you've got Rare Replay. They're probably the best versions, I'd say, of Banjo. I mean, I saw you did a video on the Nintendo 64 emulator for Switch, didn't you?
I did, and I'm kind of making another one because Paper Mario just came out, so I'm taking a look at that one. But I may actually hold the video until next year when Banjo comes out, and I'll cover both because I don't know if I've got. It's not really that much of a huge departure from the original version they dropped because I was hopeful that they would fix some of the emulation issues with Nintendo Switch Online, and they've fixed a couple of things, but they haven't fixed like the fog issue in like Zelda and stuff like that. So I think I'm going to hold out till Banjo. But yeah, Banjo's
it's like the fog's gone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not right. It's not that the fog is gone. It's like the fog exists when you're up close, but in the distance it's gone. So it's like they've flipped it around somehow.
Yeah.
It's very, very strange the way they've done it.
Because I know the fog back in the day was partially a technical limitation that helped keep the game from completely tanking.
Right, because it would really just kind of affect the draw distance, right? So after a certain Z level, you didn't have to render those polygons, so it would really help speed things up. Like Turok.
Yeah. Turok was like the prime example. But the thing is, in some games, though, like that scene in Ocarina, it also created atmosphere. Yeah. And once that's gone, it's sort of, I don't know, it just...
You're kind of messing with art at that point, right?
Yes.
Like, there's a certain aesthetic about the game, right? Like if even Turok, right? Like Turok has the fog, and yes, it was a technical limitation of the game, but it's also something that you think about when you think about Turok, that it's just got that really close-up fog. Now, when we remastered Turok, we had the option to turn the fog off because, I mean, you're running, fast computers and consoles. Yes. But we also had the option to leave the fog enabled for the old school fans of the game because we didn't want to mess with, the art form, really. So I think you're right. I mean, when you kind of make changes like that, and I think this was not a change, this was a bug, right, that was introduced somehow. Yeah. It just kind of just changes the aesthetic of the game. And, fans of the game that love the game won't enjoy this very much. Now, what I said about N64 Online previously on my video is, if this is kind of your first time coming into it, you're gonna love it. You're gonna have a great experience. These games are gonna look good and everything, but for people that play the games or remember the games, that visual aesthetic, it's not the same thing, and hopefully Nintendo will address it.
Hopefully. It'd be nice. And I hope they can really bolster the lineup too, which I'm sure they will over time. But I really hope they they'd make an effort to sort out any licensing issues and get some of those real classics on there, like the wrestling games. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hopeful. The fact that Operation Winback was there makes me hopeful. I've still got the cartridge of Winback. I absolutely loved Winback back in the day.
Dude, I think you're the only person I know that has a copy of Winback.
I probably am. I probably am.
Cartridge.
Yeah. I've still got the cartridge of Operation Winback, and I remember playing it back then thinking, my God, this game is so amazing. I can't believe this is...
Yep.
Because it was sort of like Metal Gear Solid... When did Metal Gear Solid come out? Was that 96?
Something like that. I don't know the exact, but yeah, I mean, it was kind of Nintendo 64's kind of equivalent, right? Of that genre of game.
Yeah, it was great. Did you play? Have you played?
I've played it recently on Nintendo Switch Online. It's a good game. It's a good game, you know. But I was not really big into it when it came out back in the day because I was playing Metal Gear Solid. Like, well, what do I care about Winback? You know.
I absolutely, and again, you're probably right. I'm probably one of the only people that still has a copy. I absolutely loved it. Now I've got a few super chats here. Faisal, don't worry, Nick, I can supply you with tangents. I look, I'm aware of what your tangents are going to be, and with Dim here, he's probably not going to appreciate those tangents. Because as we found out last week, he knew straight as soon as Jason Ronald revealed that he didn't like Friends, Dim was straight onto it. He didn't even hesitate.
I forgot about that. Yeah, I was all over that. Shout out to
my man,
away, Jason Ronald for not being a Friends fan.
Oh God. Okay, Kate Forever. Nice Christmas theme. Yeah, we decided, or I should say, our producer Jesse decided that for the rest of the month we'll go with a bit of a Christmas theme. I'm doing the Christmas episode with Jeff Grubb in a couple of weeks as well, so we thought, bugger it, we'll just go with Christmas for the month. Gecko Gamer, as I am currently waiting for my single Lego brick for my Saturn V set, Saturn 5 set, which Xbox franchise would you like to see a Lego set from, except Minecraft, which already has Lego sets?
Ooh.
I don't know. A Lego set from an Xbox franchise. Viva Pinata. That could make for some cool Lego.
Yeah, that's actually a good pick. Does Sunset Overdrive count?
Ooh. Well, it's not a Microsoft IP anymore.
That's true. We'll go.
Sony owns it now.
We'll go with Viva Pinata.
Yeah, that could make for some really cool Lego sets because of how colourful, and you could just have... Oh, man. Be crazy, I reckon. Okay, now I'm trying to get all the smaller stuff out of the way so that we can then focus on the bigger news of the week. In the random news of the week, we had Game Pass for PC change its name to PC Game Pass. Why? I don't know. Maybe they think it sounds better. Maybe, I don't know. If Jesse knows, he can always chime in. But I have no idea why they changed it. They just changed it to PC Game Pass. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know why they would do that. Maybe, you know, rather than saying Xbox Game Pass, PC Game Pass kind of flows. You know, it's more in line with that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Who knows? I mean, Microsoft do all sorts of things marketing wise. They only really have the answers to it. Maybe they did some you know, A/B testing of a select group of people, and they said this sounds better than this, and they changed it. So
that's right. Now it's funny, there's a nice symmetry to this with you being on this week, because last time you were on, there was the controversy with Horizon Zero Dawn not being a free upgrade, and then while we were live on the show, they then announced that it was going to be free. They backflipped.
Right.
And now we have the Uncharted 4 upgrade. So at the time, Sony said, okay, guys, we'll do you this solid, and we're going to make Horizon Zero Dawn, or Forbidden West, Horizon Forbidden West upgrade free, but that's the only one. From here on out, we're going to be charging. And of course, we now have the Uncharted 4 upgrade, which is $10. But I think there is a slight difference with Uncharted. I think with Uncharted, correct me if I'm wrong, so I've got Uncharted 4 digitally, which I bought at launch. So if I pay whatever the Australian upgrade price is, probably like $20, Is it true that I also get Lost Legacy as well as the Uncharted 4 remaster?
I think so. I'm not 100%.
Even if I didn't.
But I think you do. But I'm sure someone will correct me in the chat if that's wrong.
That is how I interpreted it too. Was that if you only had one and you did the upgrade, you did get both because that's just how the bundle works.
Right. Okay. That makes it a little more worth it. If I'm getting a copy of Lost Legacy as well, even though I didn't own it before, then I guess that makes it a little more worth it. It's just, I still think it's a bit funny that they're happy to give Forbidden West for free, but then Uncharted 4, which is a 4-year-old game, it'll be almost 5 years when it comes out. They're charging for what's essentially just, 4K 30 or 60 frames or whatever. I don't know. It's just...
Well, I mean, I think the last time I was on, even though they actually did announce it live while we were on the air, I think I said along the lines of, they're going to treat each game on its own merits. It's not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach to this.
Blanket.
Yeah, and even though it kind of felt like maybe when they announced Horizon would be a free upgrade, we kind of felt like maybe this is the new direction they're taking, but really, I stand by what I said. It's something that I think each game will be treated on its own merits, and they feel like they want to charge the extra money for the upgrade, so that's what they're going to do. The other thing, I don't know, did you mention this already, but they pulled the original games from the store.
I didn't, but that's pretty bad.
So that's something that doesn't really sit very well with me, because I mean, now that they're basically forcing you down this path. Now, of course, look, Sony wants everyone to get on PS5, just in the same way that Microsoft wants everyone to get on Game Pass and get new consoles. So I don't fault them for that, but I just feel like there needs to be some consistency, because every time this happens, there's always a question about, well, what's the upgrade path look like? How much are we going to pay for it? And why isn't there just a flat, across the board, thing about upgrades of games that get announced? There's always questions around this. And look, the Forbidden West thing, there was obviously a lot of outrage about, if you recall, and they heard and they reversed the decision, quite rightfully. So this one, I think it's kind of equally egregious in so many ways, but because it's an older game, like you said, it doesn't really affect as many people. But overall, it's still something that I feel like they just have to standardize this. I don't. Yeah, I'm not against paying for an upgrade. Like, in some ways, it makes sense, right? Because as a developer, there's been work that's been put in to those upgrades. Now, I'm assuming that it's getting an 84K, and I'm assuming maybe they're adding DualSense haptics into the game. They're adding some features. So that means a developer or a team of devs have gone into the code and then added new features into the game. So that is development time. So as a dev, I'm gonna kind of say, yeah, sure, charge for an upgrade. I can get behind that. But really, at the end of the day, it's just just be consistent. That's all I'm asking for. Just consistency here is really important. And it just seems like every game that they bring out, the next one, whatever comes out after this, will have its own upgrade path again. And I think as a consumer, that's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, but to the money thing, because you brought it up, and it's a sentiment I've seen online a lot, and I don't understand it. So there are people that are like, so you want devs to work for free. Let me make this clear. Those devs that are doing the Uncharted 4 upgrade, which I think is Iron Galaxy, I want to say, but correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Naughty Dog is involved, but I could be wrong. Those developers are getting paid by Sony regardless. Whether they charge for the upgrade or not, the developers are getting paid. So maybe people on Twitter that are getting all upset, stop with the whole, so you want the devs to work for free thing. The devs aren't working for free. You're worrying about Sony's pocket. You're not worrying about the devs. The devs will get their money. Don't stress. They're going to get paid. It's Sony that needs to wear this. Like, when you've got your direct competitor doing all of it for free, and you're already, don't forget, Sony's already charging $10 extra for all their games. $10 US anyway. In Australia, it's like an extra $30. But Sony's already charging extra for their first-party games as it is. And now they also want to charge for the upgrades that Microsoft's giving for free.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
Yeah, and goes back to the originals. You know, if the originals were still available and you just wanted to pay the price, you know, the recommended retail price for the originals without the upgrades, then you should be able to do that. But they're really just kind of, you know, forcing you to basically take the upgrade approach to this. So it's, you know, it's kind of Sony business. I'm not really that surprised by this anymore. You know.
Yeah, I know. You just,
There's an extra thing to it too, where PlayStation Plus gave Uncharted 4 last April, and that version cannot be upgraded for $10.
It can't be upgraded.
Doing
that's
things
right.
like that.
Yeah, I know. It's not great, but it is what it is. I don't think they're going to change it anytime soon.
Are you going to pick it up? Because look, here's the thing.
I might.
I've played. I mean, I have a physical copy of the game and the Lost Legacy. I love both games. I think they're fantastic. Will I pay the money to replay them again? Probably not. I mean, I've already experienced those games. There's no real desire for me to go back and play them again, honestly.
The only reason I'm considering the upgrade is for Lost Legacy, which I haven't played. I've got the Platinum on 4. I fully beat 4. It was okay. I thought it dragged on a little bit. It was frustrating for me because the main complaint I've had about the Uncharted series is that it never felt great to play. The gunplay, the melee, just the general traversal never felt the best. In 4, I feel like they finally pretty much got that right. The gunplay feels really good. The traversal feels much better. But then the pacing was just, wow. You're halfway through the game and it feels like you've been playing it forever and you find out you're only halfway through. And it's like, oh, Jesus. Like,
to be fair, I felt the same way with Uncharted 3 as well. I had similar feelings. For me, part number 2 is far and away the best one in the series.
I like the first one. I'm the outlier.
First one's good. I kind of wish, you know, like technically they would upgrade it. You know what I mean? Because it's definitely a little more primitive than number 2, which got a huge technical upgrade. But number 1 is, I mean, obviously it's still a very, very good game.
Yeah. I really like the first one. The other thing we're forgetting with this upgrade that again makes the $10 a little bit yuck is that the multiplayer is gone. So if you're buying it for the first time, you don't get the multiplayer, where I'm assuming I don't lose the multiplayer on my digital copy, although I'm not.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, are the servers actually still up for the game? Like, because I have not taken a look at that for years. Neither have I. Since Uncharted 4, so maybe there's a reason why, like, they've literally just sunset the servers and they're not available, so it's kind of out of their hands. But yeah, I mean,
maybe.
Look, in one way, it's $10. Look, but your point, you know, in some countries, it's not $10; it's a lot more than that, right? So,
that's right.
You know, it's really up to you whether you want to spend the money. But you know, ultimately, yeah, I mean, whatever Sony comes out with next, like I'm still waiting for Bloodborne, right? Whenever that will be, it may not even happen, but I'm positive Bloodborne will have a monetary upgrade.
For sure, it will,
right?
For sure, it will.
So we'll see.
100% it will. Now, obviously, you know, it's in our thumbnail. This was the bigger news of the week. We had the Game Awards, the Jeff Awards.
Yep.
I think it was great that It Takes Two won. I'm really glad that game won. Personally, I was rooting for Metroid Dread because I absolutely adored Metroid Dread. That game was amazing. But I am quite happy that It Takes Two won. I was kind of worried that game was just going to get sort of ignored because it was actually might have even been the earliest game released of all the nominees.
Yeah,
and generally, right. Generally those earlier games, not always, but generally the earlier games get forgotten about a lot. Like Hitman 3, just a lot of people forgot that came out last year.
Did you like Hitman 3?
I have not played it. I haven't played Hitman 3, but everyone I know that has loves it.
I know it's Jeff Grubb's favorite game or something. I didn't care for it. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was really in the running this year, and obviously it wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I haven't played It Takes Two either. I still need to play that, and by all reports, that's an amazing game.
Yeah, I'm happy that It Takes Two won. I have played it, and I really, really like the game. I wanted Dread to win as well. I knew Dread would not win, but Dread was my pick for the Game Awards.
Me too.
But yeah, I mean, you can't be, it's like when Sekiro won a couple of years ago. You can't be unhappy about a game that was kind of, loved by everyone. So I think It Takes Two is definitely a really, really good choice for the Game Awards.
No, I think it was great. Now, what everyone really watches the Game Awards for, which is all the reveal trailers and stuff like that. Now, a hell of a lot came out of that. It's funny, amongst all the excitement of the Hellblade trailer and then the Matrix thing dropping, Alan Wake 2 almost felt like it was forgotten about, and I'm absolutely rapt that we're finally getting Alan Wake 2. I adored the first game. I got American Nightmare and played through that. So I'm super, super pumped for Alan Wake 2 and absolutely can't wait to see like gameplay and how that's all going to work. Because apparently this one goes full survival horror, where the first game was obviously a bit more of an action game with horror elements in it.
Mm-hmm. It was more psychological too, right? I mean, there was a lot of psychological themes in the first one.
Yes.
With his wife and everything in the story.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree. Alan Wake is a great game. And I recently went back and played it on the PS5. And look, I mean, I think now, thinking back, it makes sense, right? That they got that game remastered this year because there was obviously something bigger coming.
That's exactly right.
Very, very clever on their behalf. But I'm excited for Alan Wake 2. I think it's going to be a great game. And, with Remedy on board and Sam Lake doing the story, I mean, it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's good that it's next gen only. So they'll be able to go all out with it and just, in watching that trailer, am I the only one that thought, I know it's not him, I'm aware who the actor is, but am I the only one that thought he looked like a lot like Jake Gyllenhaal?
I saw your tweets about that. I think I don't know what you're smoking. It's not Jake Gyllenhaal. I didn't get a Jake Gyllenhaal vibe from Alan Wake. Alan Wake looks like Alan Wake.
No, I know, but with the long hair and the beard, to me, he looked like Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know. Hey, I'm not the only one that saw it. There were other people in my replies that saw it too.
Press one in the chat if you don't think he looks like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh God. What else did we get? We got, now, obviously the trailer that stole the show was the Hellblade trailer. There were a lot of people speculated it might come, and then we all saw the Ninja Theory logo pop up, and I'm thinking, oh, here we go, another CG trailer.
Yep.
And then it started, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, so yeah, it's probably a cutscene or it's another CG trailer, and it looked unbelievable,
amazing.
And then Jeff at the end's like, by the way, that was gameplay, and I'm like, no effing way. And like, when you watch it, you kind of see the camera looked like an in-game camera, like the way it transitioned and the way it moved and stuff. But it was phenomenal. I can't believe how, like, I refused to accept that was real because it just looked too far beyond anything we have at the moment on console anyway to believe that was real. It just looked amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. And, Hellblade 2 was a game, I think Jeff Grubb rumored that it would be there. So I was kind of half expecting it to show up. And when it did, it was pretty hype. Look, I mean, it's really hard to know, like what is in engine and what is a cutscene. But yeah, I mean, I think the other thing I know we're going to talk about, I'm jumping ahead, and I don't want to talk, I don't want to segue into it right now, but the Matrix thing at the end.
Yes.
I mean, this is Unreal Engine 5, and all of a sudden,
Yes.
everything has changed now. As far as what is possible with with engine technology. So, look, I think it was a phenomenal trailer. I can't wait for Hellblade 2. I'm really pumped for that game.
I love the first game.
Yep. Same. I thought it was excellent.
Like, a lot of people were disappointed in the combat. I'm like, don't forget, Ninja Theory made that game on a shoestring budget of like $17.83. Like, it was just that's the beauty of Ninja Theory, and that's why I've said on this podcast a million times, Ninja Theory is the studio to watch out for now that they've got Microsoft's money behind them. Like, Hellblade is an example of what they can do on no budget.
Yeah,
like, they're good. They're like the Neil Blomkamp of game developers. Like, they can take a tiny budget and make something that looks on the surface like it's big budget, just like District 9. They're just unbelievable. And it's funny, I've seen a lot of people talking about how it doesn't look as good as the original trailer. Now, I went back and watched our episode of the podcast 2 years ago after the TGAs when it was revealed, and I said back then, the game is not going to look like that. Don't think that trailer is representative of how the game's going to look. That was a CG trailer or in-engine trailer, whatever you want to call it. If your expectations were that the game was going to look like that trailer, then you were obviously going to be let down somewhat.
Yeah, and also don't forget, I mean, it was an engine swap to Unreal Engine 5, like...
Correct.
Because back then, I'm assuming they were using UE4, right?
Yes,
for that
they were
cinematic.
on 4 back then.
So I think it was... I don't know when they announced they were using UE5, but it was at least a year ago, maybe longer. So
they switched.
So I mean, the original trailer was very, very exciting and very hype for that reason. But also, don't forget, it was also right next to the Series X that they were unveiling as well. So that was almost like a 1-2 punch, right?
Yes.
Of this new console, new technology that Microsoft was working on. So, this now is really kind of showing us what we're going to see, with this game. And I think, I kind of walked away from the original Hellblade trailer thinking, man, that was incredible, but we're probably not going to get this. We're not going to see this in the game.
That's right. No way.
We're not going to see this in the game. I mean, this is really more of a artistic look at, some of the cinematics of the game, but I never really felt like it was kind of worth dissecting from a technology perspective, because it was always something that I felt like was there just to really show off the next generation of Xbox hardware, which is ultimately what it was there for, really.
Yeah, and it looked, man, that new trailer was just, it's funny. People have been, busting Microsoft's balls to get more cinematic, narrative-driven, over-the-shoulder games like Sony's got, and it looks like they're delivering one that's going to be right up there with all of those. And for the people that are saying that the gameplay doesn't look like much, surely it was obvious that was one of the scripted sequences from the game. Like, that's what those sort of narrative-driven games are known for. They have those heavily scripted sequences so that they can show it off and make it look all pretty and flashy and cinematic and all that sort of stuff. I thought that whole giant sequence was great. I thought it looked amazing the way it was just crawling after them and they just kept stopping to try and slow it down, and just it looks really, really good. So yeah, to me that looks like as a showcase of Unreal Engine 5, between that and the Matrix demo, that's as good as an advertisement as you can get for those two things.
Yep.
And yeah, so we may as well move on to the Matrix demo. I downloaded it 2 days ago because it came online 2 or 3 days ago with a countdown timer. So if you went to start it, there was just a countdown to obviously what would be the Game Awards. And as soon as Jeff said, go play it, I booted it up straight away. And again, absolutely blown away by how that looked.
Incredible.
And as a developer for yourself, like straight away I noticed how they did that cool transition where you could turn on a toggle and it would switch from day to night. It would show you where the AI is placed. It would show you the active pixels. You could check where all the polygons are. It just showed all those cool behind the scenes parts of the demo.
Yeah, an absolutely amazing experience.
Yeah.
Look, this is something that I kind of really want the industry to move forward on. Like, we need to stop with the cross generation games. There is some amazing technology out there, and look, there's all these kind of stories about is last gen holding next gen back. I mean, if you take a look at this, you could argue that yes, it is. There are games that are still and will be cross-generational for a while. Right? We're probably at least another year to 18 months before we can finally kiss the Xbox One and the PS4 goodbye. And you see technology like this, UE5, really showcasing amazing looking visuals that absolutely cannot be done on last gen hardware.
Yeah, that's right.
And you just wonder, it's time. The industry really needs to start pushing forward. But look, I don't want to be negative. Like, I think that the showcase, the demo, the experience, whatever it was phenomenal. And
was.
Look, I've just sat there just messing around with it, for hours, just getting up close on things and really just trying to figure out how this magic is done, but really it's just amazing technology. And I know Digital Foundry had a video out today kind of walking through all the tech that's used, and look, it's absolutely incredible. Like, I can literally sit there and just kind of go through that world and just mess around, for hours and have a great time. Yeah.
They let you change the traffic density, the crowd density. So I was turning off all the crowd and the cars and everything and just walking around the street, and then I'd do the fly cam, and like, the city's massive for something that's just meant to be a muck around tech demo. That city is huge.
That was the first thing that I was playing around with. So once you're in the car and you take control, once you're walking on the street,
yes,
and you take control. Initially, I felt like all they're going to do is like let me go down like this main road. I can't take any side streets. So then I started walking down the side streets and then jumped in a car. And then I realized that there's a lot of freedom in this map. This is not a very, very small area where they have a lot of control over the visuals. This is a pretty large map, right, where you can do a lot of things. There's a lot of polygons, there's a lot of character models, there's a lot of AI, there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of cars, a lot of physics. I mean, this is a very, very impressive experience overall.
You can even go into some of the buildings. Some of them have like lobbies and stuff that you can go into. It's just, oh man, it was unreal. But even the on-rails stuff I thought was fantastic. Like, in terms of that spectacle, those set pieces, I just thought that looked, oh man, between that and Hellblade, it's just like, I can't wait. Like, and we found out that the Coalition helped on that demo.
Yep.
So you wonder, there were rumors a while back that the Coalition were working on a smaller project next to whatever the next Gears is. So you have to wonder if that demo was it. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. What did you think about? So I was watching DF's video, and I haven't watched the whole thing, but they said that some of it was cutscenes, most of it was in engine. And like, did you think that the stuff at the beginning with Keanu was
switching intentionally? That was switching intentionally. So my assumption is that they intentionally, because they kept talking about what's real, what's not. And then they kept switching from real footage to Unreal Engine. Because in the end, Uncanny Valley is a thing. Yeah, that they have not solved yet. So you could tell when it went from real Keanu to Unreal Engine 5 Keanu. You could see it. And you could see it even more with Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yep.
But then once they got into the street and into the car, that was all Unreal Engine 5 from there on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was just that start part.
That shooting mechanic at the start was really, really cool. I will say,
like the light gun games.
Yeah, I will say that the frame rate wasn't great. You know what
I
mean?
know, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think really the next evolution of this is getting that all at 60, which that's going to take a lot of processing. And I don't know if this generation is equipped to handle that. Might be, but we'll see.
I think it will depend on how linear the experience is. I think if it's something that's like ridiculously linear, not too heavy on physics and AI and stuff, they might be able to pull it off at 60. But again, it depends on what it is they're doing. Gears 5 runs at 60 on Series X, and that's an open world using Unreal Engine 4. So who knows? I guess we'll find out. You know, it's funny. We haven't had any troll super chats for a while. You come on, and one of your favorites comes along with you.
Xbot Killer, he follows me around. He loves me.
Yeah, one of our mods deleted it, but it was basically saying that you and I are Xbox shills.
I'm wearing the shirt.
He stopped.
That's right.
He stopped paying, so I said, "You stop paying, you're getting banned." He stopped paying. So he got banned.
Gecko Gamer, as a mainly PC gamer, the paid upgrade doesn't sit well with me. The only time it is justified to me is when it is a complete remaster with everything in it. Yeah, that's a good point too. I just think the fact that they're going to add... So, me as an Uncharted 4 owner, if I'm getting Lost Legacy, makes it a lot easier to swallow the $20-$30, whatever it is I'm going to be paying. Cade Forever. You two also disappointed in the Hellblade 2 gameplay trailer. That wasn't even gameplay. You two? Who's you two? Us two? No, we liked it.
Is he asking a question that were we disappointed in it?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. No, I wasn't disappointed. And it was gameplay, but again, it should have been obvious. It was a scripted sequence. Like, again, I'm confused at why the goalposts keep shifting. Everyone wanted Microsoft to do these highly cinematic set-piece games, and then they do one, and everyone's like, oh, that gameplay looked boring. It's like, so what do you want them to do? Like, this is what you were all asking for. A super good-looking, linear, narrative-driven cinematic experience. And that's what it looks like Ninja Theory is looking like they're going to deliver. So I'm not too sure what everyone's asking for. Edward King. The 3 biggest Unreal Engine 5 projects in development right now are Xbox exclusive. Hellblade 2, Stalker 2, and the Coalition's game before Gears 5. Well, that's the thing. What Coalition game before Gears? I think he's referring to 6.
I think there was somebody who said that they don't think that this was the project because all Gears did for this was memory optimization to make it work on Series consoles. They didn't actually help make the demo.
Oh, right. Okay, well then my bad on that one. I don't know. I'm not too sure. So, don't forget though, Fortnite is also now on Unreal Engine 5. That just made the shift. And I will say, because I know we were talking about old gen holding things back and all that sort of thing. Unreal Engine 5 is reportedly, according to Epic, very, very scalable. Like, that's supposed to be one of the things that they were focusing on. And as someone who has played Fortnite on Switch, I saw an immediate improvement once they've switched to Unreal Engine 5. Like, if you've ever played
the Switch version is running UE5?
I don't know. I assume so. It got an update, just like the others did.
I need to check that. I don't think that's accurate, and not because...
You don't reckon?
No, because I think UE5 is still not available on Switch yet. Even though developers can use it, I don't think there's any retail games on Switch with UE5. But I could be wrong, and yeah.
No, you're probably right. I just assumed that if they... I didn't think they could have one version on 4 and other versions on 5.
Oh, they can, but I'll need to check that out. Yeah. Yep.
No, yeah, check. I just assumed because, like, if you've ever played Fortnite on Switch, aside from the fact that it generally looks horrible and doesn't run the best, it's got this weird issue where your character model, even if you're just in the lobby, it's like this, you look like you're this blue gelatin character. So you see the outline of your character, but it's all like blue and jelly because it's like the game's just struggling to render everything.
Yeah.
Or your model goes super low poly or whatever it is. Ever since the latest update, that stopped happening.
So when you launch the game, does it say powered by Unreal Engine 5? Because I mean, that's usually what they would do.
I'd have to check.
Yeah.
I just look, I'm not a dev and I'm not intelligent. So I just worked under the assumption that if the others are all Unreal Engine 5, then the Switch version got updated as well. But you're probably right. You'd know better than I would.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, UE5 is just now coming out of beta. So it's something that I mean, we'll definitely start seeing here on different platforms, but
okay.
it's something that, like, if I have Unreal Engine installed on my PC, and when I run it, it still says beta. You know what I'm saying? So it's really now just coming out of beta. So
I'd have to look it up then. It's probably not an Unreal Engine 5 on the other two platforms.
Well, I know that they were saying it was the first UE5 game, and the reason why I don't know the answer is because I don't play Fortnite, right? So
I do.
We'll need to figure that out.
Their statement is that with the arrival of Chapter 3, Fortnite game development has flipped to Unreal Engine 5.
Okay.
That's it. They didn't say anything beyond that.
So it's not... So it might...
Yeah.
Okay, because I also do remember... Oh, no, I'm looking up articles that are saying Fortnite adopts Unreal Engine 5. Well, there you go. Okay, so I guess it is. It's there's articles saying that it's the first Unreal Engine 5 game. Well, there you go. Yep. And it's good. Like, Epic's done it in a clever way. They've always used Fortnite as their test bed for Unreal Engine features. So, yeah, it's a very ballsy way of doing it. Like, to use your main money-making game as a test development environment as well.
Well, I mean,
cool.
You got to put stock in your own engine, though, right? You know.
Yeah.
Like, what if it was using Unity or something? That would be a weird look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, no, it's for me personally. The only reason I thought it was also UE5 on Switch was because I saw that immediate improvement, and I remember they were talking about putting a focus on scalability. So I just thought, oh yeah, my God, my character's not a blob anymore. So I guess it is Unreal Engine 5 because look how much better it looks than it used to. But again, you'd know better than I would. I guess we'll have to look into it. But yes. Now, the last thing I want to cover before we go to community questions and the patron shout out. Now, we couldn't talk about this last week because we had Jason Ronald on. But I really wanted to talk about Spartacus, the supposed Game Pass competitor, which isn't really a Game Pass competitor. So the timing of Dim being on was perfect because he just did a video on it. Please go check it out. He did a video on Spartacus, but it was mostly focused on the third tier, which is the PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP games. Now, I myself said I don't see this as a Game Pass competitor because it really, it's them just merging Plus and Now, and then breaking it up into the tiers. But like you said, when it gets interesting is that they've added extra old games. So beyond PS3 now, we're also going to get PS1, PS2, and PSP. Now, in your video, which I agreed with, you speculated that it would most likely be a streaming solution for those older games.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a mix, right? Like, I don't think it's going to be exclusively streaming, and I don't think it's going to be exclusively native. So this is something that I've kind of been thinking about for a while, because I mean, when they made this announcement, the question is, well, how are they going to serve these games up? So the first thing that I mentioned in the video is it's not going to be true backward compatible, right? So
no.
For those people that don't know, PS5 and I believe, and I could be wrong, PS4 does not read CDs. So you can't put a music CD in. Yep. Therefore, you can't put an original PlayStation 1 disc in your drive. That's right. It's not going to read it. So that whole idea of, hey, if I own a physical copy of this game and I put it into my drive, I download a license for it because I own it and I can download it. That whole thing is out of the question. What they're doing, what it seems like they're doing for the Spartacus is they're offering up, like you said, a Game Pass. It's not a competitor, but I'm going to use air quotes.
Yeah.
They offer a curated list of PlayStation 1 titles, PlayStation 2 titles, PlayStation 3 titles. And this is for the third tier I'm referring to.
Yes.
What will probably happen is some PS1 games will be native, and some of them won't. Some PS2 games will be native, and some of them won't. All PS3 games will be cloud. There's no way that we're running native on PS3. The PSP stuff is interesting as well. it could go either way. Now, the reason why I kind of suggested it might be more cloud focused or more streaming focused has to do with trophies and I don't know if I really got my point across very well in the video.
You did. It takes a long time to implement them.
Yeah, because I mean now you're running emulation, right? So we know that Sony has a PS1 emulator. We know that they have a PS2 emulator. I'm pretty sure they have a PSP emulator. We don't know about PS3, right? But that's irrelevant. So PS1, we know that they exist. PS2 we know exists. So if you look at the PS2 classics that you can purchase now on PS4, and by definition you can run them on PS5 via back compat, all of them have their own trophies built into them. There was I think it's Tim Lindquist. He did there was some article that was written back in 2015 about the difficulty and time to implement trophies in one game, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking about Dark Cloud, I think, that literally took 2 months to add trophies to one game. And it's because you're running emulation. You don't have direct access to code where you can say, at this line of code, I'm going to fire this trophy. It's a lot more complicated, right? So, which incidentally, Sony had patented adding trophies to old games earlier this year. There was a patent that they brought up, and his name, Tim Lindquist, is actually in the patent. So he's still involved in this, right? Many years later, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, I think Sony is going to offer both solutions for us. I hope so. I don't want to say it's exclusively streaming because I don't think that's accurate. And look, a part of me also feels like, well, how long have they been working on this? Because let's say, and I'm just going to throw this number out. Let's say they have 100 PS1 games to go with this service, right? I mean, that sounds very aggressive as far as like adding trophies to every single one of those games, right, and having them ready. But on the flip side, if they were working on this service, I don't want to say like when the PS5 got launched, but let's say they've been working on this for about a year now, right? It almost seems like maybe that they have implemented trophies in a lot of these games and they can have them ready to go. So I am interested to see where this goes. But yeah, ultimately, I think Spartacus will be a combination of both. Really, the easiest way that Sony can offer up these things. But we also have to remember that there are many countries in the world that don't do very well with cloud and streaming as well. So I think Sony is looking also to, provide a service for them to have a not backward compatible, but a list of legacy games that they can play as well. So it'll be interesting to see what I mean, like, where this goes.
My hope is that they'll also offer the games natively to just be able to purchase one off.
Yeah, and I think so, right? Because the way that Game Pass works, right? You play the game and then there's usually a discount applied if you decide to commit to purchasing. I feel like they would have a similar thing with Spartacus where you could, let's say you wanted to download, Klonoa was part of that service and you start playing it, you loved it, and then you want to buy it. You should be able to purchase it and then have it in your library. And hopefully it's something that will carry with you going forward, with PS5 and then further on. So yeah, I would hope that that's what Sony is looking to do with this service.
It makes me so happy that you mentioned Klonoa because that's like one of my favorite platformers from the PS2.
Yeah, and it's also one of the most expensive games to buy now.
I know. I just sold my copy.
Did you?
Well, because I don't have room for all these consoles anymore, I thought I want to reduce the number of boxes I have without losing my games.
Yep.
So I wanted to make sure I could replace all my games on modern consoles before losing the old one. The only game I couldn't replace on PS2 was Klonoa. That was the only game I couldn't get on a newer console. But then I saw the rumor on Reddit about a potential remaster. I'm like, oh my God, please bring me a remaster of Klonoa 2. on OG Xbox, the only game I couldn't replace was Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks.
Oh yeah. Yep.
That was it. Everything else, like Manhunt, I bought it on disc, and now it just went backwards compatible. I'm like, perfect. I can play it on Series X. So they're literally the only 2 games. I got Def Jam Vendetta on GameCube, which I can play on my Wii. NBA Street Volume 2, got it on GameCube, can play it on my Wii. So every game that matters to me, I managed to replace on a more modern console. It's just Klonoa 2. I was just devastated. I sold it for like $150 on eBay.
Oh yeah.
Like I got a lot of money for it on eBay. It's just, it's. And have you tried to check the prices of the Wii copies?
No, I am not in a buying retro game phase right now.
God.
I assure you. In fact, in so many ways, I'm quite disgusted with the way prices have gone with old retro games. Like, I just don't want to look
out
at
of
them
control.
anymore.
It's out of control. Like, I've kept my entire Nintendo 64 collection. If I was to sell that now, I would make thousands upon thousands of dollars.
You're paying for your kids' college tuition. I mean, it's life changing the amount of money you would make.
I've still got my original Pokemon Nintendo 64 with the VHS tape in it and everything, all boxed up, wrapped, cable ties, the whole lot.
Yeah.
It's like in perfect condition. But even Klonoa 2 on the Wii, it's like $300 to try and buy it on eBay.
All of those games, I think the most expensive one is the first one on PlayStation 1. That, at least in the US, I believe it's like a $500 game. And that's US. It's very expensive.
God.
It's crazy.
Wow.
But yeah, that's what I want. I want them to have that catalog of those classic games, and not just Sony first party. Hopefully they're talking to partners like Square and Square Enix. They're talking to Namco, because Namco was obviously Capcom. Namco was big on PlayStation, obviously Ridge Racer and Klonoa, and they had all those games. Tekken franchise, of course.
Yep.
So hopefully they're talking to third party. Konami as well, obviously had a big presence on PlayStation. Yeah, Sega was big as well. So, I think that they'll have similar issues with licensing that Xbox has had to deal with. So I don't know how they're going to work around those things. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
I hope they offer it, because PS Now's not in Australia, so I can't have Spartacus here. PlayStation Now is not available here, so I'd want to be able to buy some of those games. Like I bought Maximo 1 and 2 on PlayStation 3. I bought Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution. I bought a whole bunch of those PS2 games on PS3, and they're just stuck there now. Yeah. It's a bit annoying. Like, I've had to keep my PS3 around purely for PS3 games, some PS2 games, and also it obviously plays my PS1 discs, which is good.
What would be really cool is if they launch Spartacus and all of a sudden those games that are stuck on PS3 become available to you because you've already purchased them. I know I'm jumping ahead of myself. I know. But that would be really nice. And that would be a really cool treat for the fans and the people that have paid money for these games that are literally stuck on the PS3.
And that's why I keep saying that's why I like the Xbox ecosystem, because Microsoft tends to sometimes go out of their way to show you that they do care about money you've spent in the past. There's a lot of games that we all bought on Xbox 360 digitally that we just assumed were stuck there forever, and then one day they're just like, they're backwards compatible now. We haven't forgotten about that money you spent, and it's backwards compatible. It'd be nice of Sony to do something similar. I don't expect it, but they're the sort of things that, again, everyone views things differently, but I appreciate when it's shown that my money actually is respected and acknowledged long term. That's the sort of thing that will have me spending more money in your ecosystem.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, there's always been this cloud over Sony. Well, I think we talked about this the last time I was on, maybe the first time, but when earlier this year they were announcing that they were closing down the PlayStation 3 store and the PSP store and everything, there was no real kind of message about, well, don't worry, we're going to offer up a service that's going to allow you to play these games again. So we got to take this kind of one step at a time. You know, Sony is kind of behind the eight ball, especially when compared to Microsoft when it comes to emulation and backward compatibility and playing legacy games. So this is a good first step, assuming that Jason Schreier's report is accurate, and we are going to see something, you know, March next year, and it will have a curated list of these games that you potentially will be able to play and or purchase. Then that is a good first step. We'll see. You know, I'm not expecting to be able to log into my PSN account that has PS3 purchases on it, and like you has these games that I purchased on the PS3. I'm not expecting that, but that would be nice. What I am expecting is somehow for us to play older PS1 and PS2 games on our PS4 and 5, which is not the PS2 classics, right? Because I mean, and part of me was a little nervous thinking maybe what they'll do is they'll just grab all those PS2 classics and then just put them into the service and offer them up, which that would be not a very good path for them. But we'll
I'm sure that'll be a part of it, though, won't it?
I think that'll
probably be a part of it.
They'll add those games, and look, you know, Dark Cloud is a great game. They have Max Payne in there. I mean, there's some good quality games in there. So don't get me wrong. I just don't want them to do the little or the least amount of work for this. I want them really to, you know, if they're going to offer this, and again, we have to be very clear that this came from a Bloomberg report. Sony hasn't made any official statements at all.
It's still a rumor at the moment.
But I mean, it's probably going to happen. Whether we get everything that was in that report does remain to be seen. Whether we get everything in that report day one remains to be seen. We may end up with PS1 on launch, and then they may add PS2 or PSP later on. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But if it is indeed a thing, then you know, I'm on board with it, and I'll see. We'll see.
Well, all the services grow. They all grow. Like the Nintendo Switch Online didn't start with 64. It started with NES and SNES, and then they added Mega Drive and 64. Game Pass didn't start with day one first-party games. I remember people dumping all over Game Pass because it was just a bunch of old third-party games and some indies on there. And it's like, oh, why would I want to pay for that? As soon as they added first-party games day one, that just changed everything. Like, that was just like industry changing as soon as that came along. So services grow. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're 100% on the money. Assuming this is all even happening, it would probably start with PS1 games because they've already got PS3 in there. And then they might add 2 and PSP later.
I mean, I think part of that report talked about investment in the cloud. So what they're probably going to do is really shore up the PS3 experience, the streaming experience, because right now it's kind of hit and miss. And really kind of bring it into parity with something like xCloud or Stadia or Luna, for example, right?
Are we forgetting that they signed that partnership with Microsoft a year or two ago?
For Azure services,
That's right. So my assumption is that maybe this will be running on Azure.
Probably. I mean, a lot of the world runs on Azure right now. Probably a lot more than most people think. To be honest. So it doesn't surprise me.
Maybe part of that is shifting the PS3 stuff over there as well. Maybe there's something going on there. Like, how cool would it be? Because again, remember, these companies don't get involved in the console war like gamers do. They do a lot of deals behind the scenes. How cool would it be if Microsoft were helping them out with emulation?
I mean, you're fanboying.
I'm saying,
Nick. You're fanboying.
I'm saying how cool would it be? I don't expect it to happen. I'm just saying Jason Ronald and his team are clearly ridiculously talented and very highly skilled at what they do. How cool would it be if part of this deal was, hey, give us a hand with an emulator that can maybe cover PS3, PS2, PS1, the whole lot? I just think something like that would be cool.
I don't think Sony needs a hand. I think they have the expertise. The thing is, they don't have... It's not that they don't. They have the budget. They don't want to execute on this, right? Like, they could absolutely make this work if they really wanted to. But there is a there is a time and resource commitment. I mean, let's be honest. Xbox, when the Xbox One came out, they were already emulating the 360, right? Now, they announced it later, but they were already working on that stuff. The hardware, the Xbox One hardware, as terrible as the VCR is, had hooks into it to to work with emulation on the 360. Sony's never really been interested in emulating the PS3, right? But look, the PS5 is powerful enough. We've seen RC PS3. We know that the hardware can run PlayStation 3 games. That is 100%. Without question. It's really just a personnel and a money thing at this point. If Jim Ryan, before the launch of the PS5, maybe a year before, put aside, and I'm just using this number, $5 million and a team of 20 engineers and said, I need you guys to get PlayStation 3 games running on this thing, right?
They could do it.
Not for launch, but, maybe unveiling it maybe 2 years into the launch of the PS5. They could do it. There's no reason why that couldn't happen. It's really just about Sony's priorities, and they've always been about the current lineup of games. Right. So now I think they're starting to see what Game Pass can deliver, both from a service perspective as well as a legacy perspective as well. They're seeing the numbers on how many people are using backward compatibility, and they want a piece of that, and I don't blame them for that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't think they need Jason Ronald, and Microsoft. They can do. They are more than capable of doing it themselves. It's just really whether they feel like it's important to their kind of overall vision of going forward.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the PS3 already could technically run PS1 and PS2 games, so you could theoretically have a PS3 emulator that then takes care of the other two as well. Like Jason was saying, that the OG emulator, the OG emulation that we have now is basically the 360's OG emulation. Like, it's built off that. So it would make sense that if you're going to make an emulator that does PS3, you may as well have it encapsulate the other two as well, and just capture it all in one go, I guess. But that's me talking as a layman and having no idea how the hell this stuff. You would have way more of an idea if that's possible.
To be honest, I don't really have an idea about how I don't know how Microsoft does backward compatibility. I mean, technically I know how it all works, but I don't know the ins and outs of the deals that get signed and the team and how big the team is and stuff like that, right? So there's definitely a lot of kind of secret sauce and magic that goes on, to bring these games forward. And there's a lot of things we'll never be told about, with these teams ultimately. Yeah.
We tried to ask him off air. He wouldn't tell us.
He wouldn't tell you?
Yeah. So, he wouldn't tell us.
What wasn't a PR-approved question, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, Edward King actually has a super chat about this. What's the pricing for the 3 tiers of Spartacus? We have no idea, mate. Spartacus technically isn't real right now, technically.
I just threw out $5 a month, $7.99 a month, and $10 a month.
You reckon?
Then that's just a guess. I have no idea.
I think they'll start at 10. I think
Maybe.
10 will be where they start, and that tier 3 with the old games will be like $20.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, that's really the big unknown about the pricing model around this.
Yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see. Okay, another super chat before we move to Patron shout and stuff. Hi MVG. We are 10 days away until fall is over. Is there anything about the Microsoft and Nintendo partnership, or could we expect a delay? What's your take, Nick? Okay, so I've said this before. I chose to put my head on the chopping block because everyone was asking if the Banjo on Nintendo Switch Online was the Microsoft-Nintendo partnership I alluded to earlier in the year. And I was honest and said no. The Microsoft and Nintendo partnership I was alluding to was not Banjo on Nintendo Switch Online. It was something else altogether. We are almost at the end of fall and it hasn't been announced. So my guess is that yes, it's been delayed. That's all I can say. it has probably been delayed, like a lot of things have. I don't know. Okay. Actually, I will say, oh no, I'll make a part of the patron shout. So, now we're almost at community questions now. So we'll start. I'm assuming Jesse will now run the Patreon names along the bottom. We have a ticker now, which just runs along, rather than reading out all the patrons. We now have this cool ticker that runs along the bottom, and they just see their names there. We love our patrons. They make everything possible, like the book, which we put the book on Kickstarter. It's funded with 2 weeks to go, which is awesome. Last I checked, we were at 104 or 105%. So that means now that MVG has to get involved and write his piece for it soon.
Yep.
But we will organise that. We've all got to write a piece, the whole team. We've got MVG, we've got Grub, we've got Tom Warren. We're all writing a bit for the book, which is great. And yeah, it's super exciting. I can't wait for that Kickstarter to be over and we can really start to get going on making that book possible. And yeah, it's the patrons that made it possible, that whole prototype, all that sort of stuff. Now, did we miss a super chat as well? Let me go back. Yes, we did. Sorry, Gecko Gamer, we missed the super chat. I just want to say to MVG that hearing him talk about his experience and knowledge about underground grey hat, what's grey hat? Grey hat dev groups, or homebrew as most people call it, is extremely interesting. What's grey hat?
Appreciate it. So grey hat is, so when you think about hacking, right, there's black hat and then there's white hat. So black hat are the ones that kind of do malicious things like, send out malware or, things like that. White hat is when security researchers find issues with, let's say, a website, and then they report that to the company and say, hey, these are the things that are problematic, so they're not causing any damage. Grey hat is kind of somewhere in the middle. You know what I mean? It's like you're kind of neutral, right? You're not like trying to destroy the world, but you're also kind of doing things that may be a little bit, on the side of illegal as well. Yeah, so it's kind of in the middle somewhere.
Okay, fair enough. Well, there you go. Well, like I've said it before, Gecko Gamer, I could hear Dim talk all day about this sort of stuff. It's great. Super, super interesting. So, I'm assuming we've been running the patron names underneath. So, it's now time to move on to our community questions. And you know what? For the first time in quite a while, there aren't like 1,000 of them, which is good. So, like I said, we're on track to still have a pretty quick show. Now, community questions. First one, DeoGame. Xbox was admittedly quieter than expected at the TGAs, but frankly, they blew PlayStation and Nintendo out of the water with what they did bring. Hellblade II, by God, so good. Yes, it was. It was very good. However, we know Microsoft still has a lot of stuff up their sleeves. Do you think they are saving it for E3? It just isn't done. They don't want to keep unveiling stuff early without concrete results. A combo they're in. Or perhaps do you think the console manufacturers are trying to distance themselves from relying on the Game Awards a bit so they can dominate the news cycle on their own? Again, this is more so a Sony and Nintendo issue as Microsoft brought something of great value. Senwa's back must ache like mad from carrying that show. Well, yeah, Microsoft did. I mean, a lot of the Microsoft people were there at the Game Awards, and they did show there was a very strong Microsoft presence versus the other two. But I think Microsoft has always are starting to put that focus on spreading stuff out and staying in the news cycle more so than the other two. But I'm pretty sure there's a fair bit of unannounced 2022 stuff out there. Like, there's a lot of 2022 that we know about, but I'm pretty confident there's a bit we don't.
Look, I think the Game Awards is an interesting show for the platform holders, because
it is.
Think of last year, right? Last year, almost Emulator replicated this year as far as who was present and who wasn't, because Microsoft showed off Perfect Dark and they showed off Flight Simulator.
Yes.
And for me, I don't know about what you thought, but last year I thought Perfect Dark was probably the biggest announcement of the show.
For sure.
Now, Nintendo showed up with Sephiroth at the start, if you recall, for Smash Brothers, but Smash Brothers obviously is done now. So And for me, Nintendo in recent times hasn't really had a huge presence at the Game Awards.
No.
And Sony, I mean, let's be honest, Sony barely kind of turned up. They didn't turn up this year and they didn't turn up last year. Microsoft has always kind of had more of a presence at the Game Awards than the other two, at least in recent times. But look, I think ultimately, at the end of the day, it's very difficult to make announcements for games that kind of new games at the Game Awards, because I think the Super Chat touched on an interesting point. I think these companies really want their own control over how they present them. Sony would much rather have a state of play where they curate it themselves. They basically do it themselves. And that's not to say that they wouldn't get that amount of control at the Game Awards, but let's say they did have something that they wanted to show, but Keighley said, "Look, we can't show that until the second half of the show." That may not be that may not be in line with what they're expecting. You know what I mean? So you do lose a little bit of that creative control, that vision that you're trying to show off when you have something you want to show. So, look, and I guess the other thing is, it's the end of the year. These companies, all of them have. Look, Sony had a really great first half of the year. They kind of fell away in the second half. Microsoft had a very slow start, and then they really kind of rallied in the second half. Nintendo, they didn't have anything huge, but they just had a constant stream of good first party games. So ultimately, I think all of them kind of want a bit of a break. This is truly a celebration of video games. This show, it's a big Hollywood spectacle as well. Let's be honest. So I think most of them are probably just thinking, we'll give you something, but we're not really going to show you anything major until next year. There's probably going to be a Nintendo Direct early in February, right? Sony's probably going to have a state of play at some point, January, February.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's really just about 2022 at this point,
Yeah, I feel like the last 3 Game Awards it's Microsoft that's leaned into them more. Like they revealed the Series X at the Game Awards, Hellblade at the Game Awards, Perfect Dark at the Game Awards. I feel like, because there's 2 sides to that story. The Game Award, like a company like Microsoft, more so than Nintendo and Sony, are in a bit of a conundrum. They probably want the control, like you said, because remember, Nintendo Directs get massive eyes.
Oh yeah,
like everyone watches the Directs. Nintendo doesn't need the Game Awards. Nintendo doesn't need E3. Nintendo doesn't need any of those, because the Directs are their own event, on their own. The state of plays are somewhere in the middle. They're not as big as the Directs. But then Sony themselves, PlayStation themselves, probably are still big enough and popular enough to not necessarily need all those trade shows. Microsoft kind of still does. Like, I mean, whether people get upset or not, simple fact of the matter is that Xbox as a brand is not in the same place as Nintendo or PlayStation. And the Game Awards also get a lot of eyes, like a ridiculous amount of eyes. So on the one side, you could say, well, why wouldn't Microsoft use that as an opportunity to show a big new cinematic Hellblade trailer? Why wouldn't they use it to announce Perfect Dark? So Microsoft's in that weird spot where I'm sure they do want their direct/state of play, but at the same time, they don't want to miss out on the opportunity to show something to the largest amount of eyes possible.
For sure. And let's not forget that it's at the Microsoft Theater in LA as well. So, I mean, there's got to be some type of bro price kickback thing going on there where, they get the first pick of the trailer and the time that they want that trailer to drop as well. So there's got to be some back scratching going on there.
Maybe a little bit. Who knows? Okay. Next question. Semir Alcha. How you doing, fellas? First, I want to say congrats on reaching 100% funding for the book project. It looks awesome. Thanks, mate. Now for the question. Do you think Xbox has unannounced stuff for 2022, like some third-party exclusive or Xbox Game Studios publishing deals? Cheers. Well, yeah, we just sort of said that. I am almost positive there would be unannounced stuff for 2022. Whether that's new, whether that's existing. We all knew, Forza Horizon 5 was an open secret, but it didn't get announced officially till fairly close to release, or it was announced at E3 or something.
Yep.
There'll be stuff like that in 2022. Like, surely we might be expecting Forza Motorsport this year. It's just not announced for 2022. But in terms of maybe surprises, yes, I would expect, whether it's a smaller game, like on the scale of like a Battletoads, whether it's a remake or a remaster of something, I would expect some surprise stuff for 2022 as well, personally.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think you're right. Forza Motorsport will probably be announced next year. Obviously, Starfield is the big game that's the big one will hit on the holidays. And there'll be some announcements kind of littered throughout the year, maybe some smaller things, maybe a couple of shadow drops. Yeah, look, I mean, Microsoft has a lot of momentum going into 2022, and there is some questions around, a lot of these games that we've seen announcements for probably won't be 2022 releases. A lot of them will definitely not be 2022 releases, but I think there'll be some surprises that we'll see. But Starfield is the big one, of course.
Got a question for you. Just an opinion. Do you think Hellblade 2 could sneak into 2022?
Man, that's a really good question. The UE5 engine swap is telling me no, it probably won't. But I mean, there's a chance that we may get it next year. And in some regard, remember, it was unveiled 2 years ago at the Game Awards, right? So in some regard, it should be coming out next year, but I don't know. I think if I was going to put money on it, I'd probably say 2023. But it could make an appearance next year.
The only reason I asked that is because I think COVID, through sheer rotten luck, might have hit Ninja Theory and Hellblade worse than others. And the reason I say that is because they showed the trailer, which was clearly a CG in-engine trailer. The game hadn't started development yet. But then just as they're about to start development, COVID hits.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, because that was December 2019, and COVID really kicked in March. And Ninja Theory is also heavily reliant on mocap.
Oh, yeah.
Heavily reliant on mocap, which couldn't be done for a full year. So but then all of a sudden now, 2 years later, we have that gameplay little sequence that they showed us. So they are deep in, and we're now another year away from the end of 2022. So I just wonder, maybe something's changed, and does it sneak in just to the end of next year? I don't know. It's an interesting one.
Even if it did, right? Like if it dropped in December, why wouldn't you just hold it anyway? Kind of like Halo, right? Like I love that Halo came out in December, but what does it mean for Game of the Year nominations and stuff like that? It's kind of in no man's land, because like you said, this time next year, no one's going to remember Halo Infinite as a Game of the Year contender, especially when we've got God of War, possibly
Horizon.
We've got Horizon, and all that stuff coming. So
yeah. I mean, and have a look. A lot of people forgot about Bowser's Fury. Super Mario World. That came out very early in 2021, and that was an awesome game. Not even mentioned in the Game of the Year discussions, because it was a January game, I think. January or February. So it was completely forgotten about. So, yeah, I mean, you're right. Even if it is ready for November, December, why not just hold it as a January, February game?
What does your gut say? You think we're getting it next year?
Probably not. The only reason I ask is because they showed actual gameplay. So it's like, is it more ready than we all thought it was? That's the only reason I ask.
Yeah, there was a part of me that thought, why didn't they just flash 2022 on the screen, at the end? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true too.
If that was the case, because that's kind of what a lot of studios do now. They don't commit to a date, but they'll commit to a year, right? But look, different studios handle that differently as well, right? So like Starfield, right? We know is coming out November, but we're probably not going to see Starfield until E3, because we know it's
Yep.
only going to be a few months after until the game comes out. So, because a lot of people are asking, will Starfield make an appearance at the Game Awards, like gameplay wise? And while I think they probably have a gameplay trailer they could show at the Game Awards, I mean, if you look at, Todd Howard and the way that he does his E3 presentations, it's usually they'll show an alpha build of the game that's kind of almost ready to be released, right? So I think that'll be the same thing again. So we'll see what Ninja Theory does. You can't rule out next year, but it's unlikely that it's going to be next year, I would say.
Because the thing is, we also don't know the scale of the game. We have no idea. Like, anyone who's played Hellblade will know that it was a very hyperlinear, short, sharp, punchy experience. For all we know, Hellblade 2 is just going to be a AAA looking version of that.
Could be.
In which case, maybe it does sneak in. If it's just a short, sharp, punchy thing that's made to look like this grand AAA, super expensive thing. We don't know. That's why it's just one of those things that I question, does it sneak in? Probably not, but it'd be cool if it did. Okay, Morventhus. No questions from me this week. Hope you have a good podcast. Thanks, mate. TornRaptor. Hello to the two greatest Greeks not from Greece. If you recall, and I'm sure you do, Nick, the Coalition was apparently working on a smaller game to get used to working on Unreal Engine 5. With the news that they helped with The Matrix Awakens, how likely is it that this was the project they were working on to familiarize themselves with Unreal Engine 5, and there was never any small new projects from the Coalition, like was discussed by the leakers? It's funny, he's got a gif here of Zorba the Greek as well. Well, look, we talked about this before. Jesse mentioned that I think they were just helping with optimization. So this probably wasn't the smaller project the Coalition was working on.
Yep.
How interesting would it be if the smaller project was helping Ninja Theory get Hellblade out the door?
Possible. I mean, I think this would be something that someone would ask the Coalition and they could answer, without like any kind of secrecy.
Getting in trouble.
I mean, I think this is kind of fair game for a question that could be asked. But yeah, I don't think that the Matrix experience is the smaller thing that they're working on. You're right. I think there's something else in the works, and it could be. Yeah, you could be right. It could be them assisting with Hellblade or something along those lines.
Because I assume that if there's any developer that's got a pretty decent handle on Unreal Engine 5 already, probably the Coalition. Okay, next. Good old Collingwood. Hello, Nick, Demetrius, and Jesse. Can Dim put on an English accent and puff a vape to replace John? If needs be, we can get Dim to be a substitute Sika Mechanico. I mean, he does look like the spitting image of John. No, he doesn't. Whatever. Anyway, isn't it always the way that you think of the best questions after the guest has been on the podcast? Lucky then that Dim consented to return. About 7 months ago, you reported about the DRM issues with the Xbox Series consoles. 1, the inability to play the games just installed off disk because of the need to download assets. 2, the need for your console to be always online to play games you have installed. And 3, the need to be online to set up an Xbox Series console. Say Phil Spencer had just watched your video and said, we need to fix this. Get MVG on the line. MVG, I just saw your video and I know you are cluey about consoles. How do you make it that Xbox players can play games off disc, play games without needing to be online, and set up a Series console without the internet? Also, what are your views about the physical edition of Halo Infinite not even having an installable version of the game?
All right. Well, I'll try to answer as much as I can. And you said it was going to be a quick show because I mean I could talk for another 30 minutes on this, but I'll try to.
It doesn't have to be a quick show. I just assumed it would be.
I'll try to condense it. I'm not happy that Halo Physical doesn't have the game on it. I mean, as someone that's always bought the steel case Halo game back to the first one, I'm a little unhappy that it's not on there, to be honest with you. But
so what is on there?
That's a good question. I don't really know what's on there. It's not like just a link to a browser or anything like that. It's not like
I think it is the base multiplayer install, and this happens a lot with anything that's smart delivery.
Yeah,
because they're only making one disc, and that one disc then gets you the download essentially for whatever you're playing it on.
Yeah,
Interesting.
That was kind of the second thing I was gonna say. So, how do you fix this? I mean, there's multifacets to this, right? So I'll try to touch on all of them. The discs. The first thing is to what was just said. The smart delivery discs always have the lowest common denominator on there, right? So if you buy a game and if the disc says Xbox Series X and Series S on it and Xbox One, and then it has smart delivery, like the actual words on there, what you're actually getting on the disc is you're getting the Xbox One version of the game every single time, right? Like the first version. So as soon as you put the disc in your Series X, it's going to be like, oh, you've got a Series X. This is an Xbox One disc. I'm going to go and grab the appropriate Series X version of the game. So the disc itself does not contain the actual Series X version. So it always has to download it. Now there is another part of this. There are discs like Flight Simulator and Devil May Cry 5, I believe, that will say Xbox Series X on the disc. So they're exclusive Xbox Series X discs, and they have the full version of the game. Even Flight Simulator, you can purchase a physical copy of Flight Simulator, install it offline, and play it. You can install a offline version of Devil May Cry 5. It's the version 1 version, right? It doesn't have the 120 patch on there, whatever, but it will work, right? So it's really about, and again, it's going back to, is last gen holding back next gen, right? Or current gen? This is another reason why I really, really want Microsoft to, not just Microsoft and Sony, to kind of move away from their legacy stuff. Now, the reason why you can't put, the reason why Microsoft does not currently put Series X version games on their smart delivery discs is because of the disc limitation. So the disc limitation,
I was about to say,
is 50 gigabytes, and while
even on Xbox One,
I believe so, it's 50 gigabytes.
So Xbox One supports dual layer Blu-rays.
I think so. I'm pretty sure it does, right?
I didn't think it did.
So
Xbox One can go to 50, and the PlayStation 4 could go up double that
to 100.
Okay.
So that's essentially why any disc you buy physical doesn't not have the full game on there. That's essentially the reason. Because number one, Microsoft, for whatever reason, I'm not saying they don't want to invest the money or whatever, they are not using 100 gigabyte discs. So they're not, like, for me, in an ideal world, smart delivery would have both versions on the disc, right? So you would have both versions rather than having to download the appropriate version for you. So between those two things, that's what I would tell Phil. I would tell, look, Phil, we need to move away from these smart delivery discs. You need to put the Series X version on the disc because that's what paying customers want. You need to upgrade to 100 gigabyte discs as well. And honestly, with Halo and games that really have sold many, many copies, it's in your best interest to provide a version of that with the full game on the disc as well. So there are some of the things I do. I think the other thing he was talking about is, activating the Xbox the first time, how you have to be connected. Look, I think they need to fix that as well. I would tell Phil, you need to take all that away. That I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to make a very seamless and streamlined process where you can just connect via your phone and get on your Wi-Fi. I get that, but with a PS5, the day that I got my PS5, I plugged it in. I saw Astro's Playroom on there. It wasn't connected to the internet at all, and I pressed start, and it just threw me straight in. And that's not something that you can do with Xbox. So I'd tell Phil, look, we need to do away with this concept of first time activation stuff, because it really is, it kind of goes against everything, all the good work that you've done with backward compatibility and all that. You've got something like this that's kind of affecting it as well. So to answer the super chat question, or the Patreon question. Hopefully, those are the things that you're looking for. But yeah, I'd be telling Phil, listen, you only need to make a few small tweaks, and everything will be fine. But this is what you need to do.
You know what's odd about the Halo thing, though? So if the disc limit is 50 gig, Halo with the multiplayer and the campaign is less than 50.
Well, here's the thing, right?
That makes it even stranger.
When did they go gold with Halo? Like, when was the gold date? Because I feel like discs were already pressed beforehand. And that's just a guess. I don't know, right? But it seems like the campaign was coming in pretty hot, because I think they said they went gold, maybe 2 weeks before.
I was about to say it was a few weeks back.
Yeah. But I remember being able to pre-order the game and stuff like that, the physical and everything like that. So I wonder when the physicals were actually ready.
Yeah, maybe.
I feel like they pressed the discs when the multiplayer dropped, earlier than that. So, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I am hopeful that they will, once like they add in multiplayer, local co-op, they add in Forge and all that. They basically expand the game to the vision that they wanted to give us. That we will get a definitive edition version of the game that has everything on it, and it will be Series X only, and it will be non-smart delivery and everything like that. But we'll
hopefully,
see. Phil, if you're watching,
Emil's actually.
Fix it.
Emil's got a super chat about this. Okay, but how Xbox One would play Halo offline? Since there's just 15 gig on the disc and campaign itself is 25, it doesn't seem to be SD problem. Same for Forza Horizon 5, which is only 25 gig on the disc.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, you should be able to play the campaign offline, right? Like,
theoretically, yes.
Yeah, if they had the campaign and the multiplayer on disc, then you should just be able to play it. So it is ultimately a smart delivery problem.
Yeah, I guess it's one of the sort of lesser talked about downsides to smart delivery. As someone, again, in a bit of an FU got mine situation, as someone whose consoles are all connected to the internet anyway, and I'm 99% digital. Yeah. Not as much of an issue.
I think for me, my biggest thing, and look, I respect anyone's opinion on this, because I'm also someone that's, I don't want to say I'm moving towards digital, but we're talking earlier about like buying Klonoa off eBay, like the ridiculous prices that you pay, for retro games now.
Yes. If
there was a service where you could play them digitally, that would be fantastic. So I definitely see the upsides of it. But the thing that I always say is, like, if you go to I'm going to say Target, if you go to Kmart or JB, you buy a DVD, right? You can still play that DVD, years and years later on your DVD player. You can't really do the same thing with video games. And I've always wondered, why can't you do that? Why can't I, a game that I bought 7 years ago, why can't I put that in my machine and play it? So I've always felt like there's a disconnect there between, video games and things like that. But
I know. Well, at least Microsoft's tried. They have tried to an extent. Like, I can put my like I said, I bought that Manhunt disc for $100 off eBay. Although, to be fair, I did sell my PlayStation 2 copy for $100. So at least they cancelled each other out. But Manhunt, I bought it on Xbox because it plays on 360 via backwards compatibility. So I'm like, oh, well, at least I can still play Manhunt on a modern console.
Yeah.
When it went backwards compatible on Series X, I was like, yes. Popped the disc in, installed it, and it's there. It's great.
Look, I know that Microsoft knows about this. They have talked about possibly addressing it. So I think really at the end of the day, it's just about visibility and making sure that they do the right thing. But look, they may never fix this, right? They may never think it's too important. And in many ways, if they're betting on the legacy and the future of Game Pass, right? Game Pass is obviously something that's very successful for them. Game Pass, by definition, is digital, right? So I mean, that's the way it is. So we feel pretty safe that Xbox Xbox Live and all that isn't going to go away anytime soon. So we feel pretty confident that our games will carry forward with us, through generations, which is great. But I do really hope that they address a couple of these things ultimately going forward.
And that is the tricky part. Digital is becoming more and more prevalent by the month.
Yeah.
Like Sony's digital share has increased exponentially. Microsoft's now, like, don't forget, the Series S is a digital-only console. So, of course, that thing has to be online to activate and play a game and do whatever. Like, I set up both my kids' Series S's last week, and I just stepped through, but they were both... I hardwire all my consoles. Like, my consoles have been connected to the internet since when? Since 1999, 2000 with the Dreamcast. I've always, for me, it's never been an issue, but I completely understand the frustration for people that can't connect their consoles online, at least at the start. It is a tricky one because, again, with every day that passes, the internet is more and more prevalent, not less. So an exec could be a real jerk off and be like, well, you've got the internet at home, don't you?
Yep.
Why don't you just plug it in? Now, that's not a great attitude to have, but...
Well, I mean, it goes beyond that. Like, there was also, there's been Xbox Live outages and stuff, right? And I remember there was one case where no one could activate their Xboxes, that they'd purchased.
Yeah.
And look, it was only down for a couple of hours, maybe. It wasn't a huge thing, but you're a paid customer, right? There needs to be some type of way to play your game systems. You shouldn't have to rely on an internet connection to activate a system. The system should already be activated in the box. Now, I agree that you probably want to get it connected so you can take advantage of Game Pass and you can take advantage of all the great things that an online connectivity will give you. But ultimately, then they need to relax that a little bit, I think. And will they do that? I don't know, but they definitely know about it, so.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure they do. I personally don't think they'll bother, but I hope they do. It's probably the right thing. Okay, Kraken56. After beating Halo's campaign, it felt like a great foundation for the future and a good game in my opinion. I hope the next time we see something on the campaign side, it is only built for Series X and S. I hope that too. I feel they could do some incredible stuff design-wise if they ditch the old hardware. Imagine bringing in more diverse units from the banished Armada that Halo Wars 2 had. I love the boss fights in the game, and I think vehicle bosses could be epic and a lot of fun. My question is, if the next time we see a campaign expansion is 2 or 3 years away, do you think it is a mistake if they build it for the old-gen consoles?
Yes.
Thank you, and love the show. Yep.
Yes.
Big mistake.
Got to move forward. Forward. And look, I think, Microsoft, I mean, it sounds like at least all the games that have been announced that we know of are all... next gen or current gen titles. So they are moving in that direction. So I would expect that whatever's next with Halo is going to be exclusive,
I believe Halo is the last major first party game tied to Xbox One. I think. I stand to be corrected, but I do believe Halo's the last one.
I think you're right.
I think with Forza Motorsport, I think they were testing to see if they can get it running on Xbox One. I think there was a rumor floating around that they were testing Forza Motorsport running on Xbox One, but I don't know if they'll actually bother going with it. But yeah, look, anyone who's watched this podcast knows I've been saying for like a year, ditch Xbox One for Halo. Just free that game of the shackles and just let it be next gen only. Now, obviously, they haven't done that. I have played Halo on Xbox One on the
VCR?
1S. No, not the VCR, on the 1S. I don't have a VCR around. I sold my Halo 5 console. I've played it on the 1S. I'm actually surprised at how it looks. It actually looks better than I was expecting. But it does run at 30, which is a bit jarring, especially when you've played it at 120. Which is, by the way, still incredible that an open world first-person shooter can run at 120 frames per second.
Yeah, I'm running
absolutely nuts.
I'm running on performance mode as well. It's very, very good.
Oh, it is crazy. But yes, it runs at 30, which is kind of weird because didn't Halo 5 run at 60 on the VCR? Or am I wrong on that?
Yeah, it did.
It did.
Right. It did. Yeah.
So I know different engine, different scale of games because it's open world, but just at face value, I find it humorous that Halo 5 ran at 60 on the VCR, but then Infinite runs at 30. Again, I'm fully aware of why. I'm just saying that it's a funny thing to see that the older game could run at 60.
I mean, I think it was targeting 60. Whether it actually locked at 60 is probably not something.
Yeah.
You're right. It was definitely targeting 60.
Yeah. It's just, I just found it funny is all. But yes, hopefully the sooner they ditch Xbox One, the better. Faisal. Hello all. Congratulations on 100% funding on the Kickstarter. Halo Infinite is my first Halo experience. Wow. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying it so far. The campaign is a lot of fun and it feels great to play. You may be wondering how I never got into the series as someone who has had an Xbox since the 360 era, but I would posit that it's a lot like the hit television show Friends, where millions know it's a great product, but others have missed it as it wasn't what they were looking for at the time. However, Friends and Halo are always there for you. One thing I do not understand is the handling of the Warthog, and I'm shocked that there isn't a setting to make it run like a vehicle from any game that has come out after 2001. To Halo veterans, I ask, is this just a me thing? Yes, it is. Surely these mechanics should be updated to feel as good as the rest of the game. So, on to my question for the panel. What is the worst vehicle mechanics you've seen in a game? As of now, for me, it's a toss-up between the Warthog and the Mako. P.S. I had wanted to ask this to the You Had Me at Halo panel yesterday, but I had missed the live show. Those boys are doing a great job as well. Yes, they are. Now that I have a frame of reference on the game their show is about. Now, it's funny. I get what he's saying, because the Warthog, the vehicles in Halo still control like they do all the way back from CE.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess to him, that's seen as not modern. And he obviously wants the vehicles to just, I guess, handle like a normal vehicle, like a car, like in a car game or whatever. But here's the thing. There's actually more games than Halo that have vehicles controlled that way. Fortnite's vehicles control like Halo's. And I think there's a couple of other major games where their vehicles play like Halo's, where you're using the right stick to control the camera and guide.
Borderlands is another one. If you
is it? Oh, well, there you go.
Borderlands has very similar driving mechanics, which I will say it does take a little bit of getting used to, especially because, I mean, you're kind of expecting just to hold down the right trigger to accelerate.
And go.
Like Forza or something. But yeah, there's a lot of games that have that similar mechanic. So going into it, you kind of know what to expect. But I think, from someone that is a first-time Halo player, may take a little bit of getting used to. I would agree with that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, see, to me, I picked it up and just knew how to control the vehicles. To me, if all of a sudden they switched to traditional vehicle controls, it probably would have weirded me out a bit to play Halo with normal controls.
I would say the Mako is far and away the worst vehicle control in any video game. I know they fixed it slightly with the Mass Effect remaster recently, but it wasn't perfect.
It's been that long since I've played Mass Effect that I can't remember. I know that vehicles in Grand Theft Auto aren't the best. I still remember in Grand Theft Auto 4, it's like you're driving a tank. But yeah, nothing really stands out to me, to be honest. Mm-hmm. No game immediately pops into my mind where I can think, oh my god, controlling a vehicle in that game was horrible. Grand Theft Auto is probably the closest thing for me. But then most of that game plays horribly. But yes, anyway, moving on. Mort, hello guys. How do you feel about Psychonauts 2 getting 0 awards at the Game Awards? What is wrong with people? Hugs, Mort. Yeah, I mean...
Not a huge surprise for me. Look, I really like the game, but I don't know, man. Look, I don't really put too much stock in the Game Awards as far as the nominations and the winners and what was snubbed and everything. You have to look at the number of different outlets that are that are voting on this stuff. And plus, let's be honest, the amount of, I think the percentage of public vote, which is only 10%, right? I mean, that's like a placebo. It means nothing. Even if 10% of people voted for one game, it really wouldn't be enough to kind of push the scales, right, of a game being nominated or winning. So I've always felt like, look, the Game Awards is, while it's a really cool event as an award show, and the meaning behind it. I know the people that won awards are probably going to disagree with me, but like ultimately, I'm not really too fussed if a game missed out or it didn't win or whatever. There are outlets like the Hollywood Reporter, the LA Times. I mean, these outlets that don't really have anything to do with video games. They don't even have like a section in their newspaper that is reviewing games, other than these kind of big blockbuster games that may come out. So, I don't know. I don't put too much stock into it at the end of the day. I'm a little surprised though that it didn't get anything. I would have liked to seen something, but I'm also on the flip side, I'm not surprised as well.
The one that disappointed me was that the Artful Escape didn't win either art design or audio. Like, man, seriously?
Yeah, I thought that game was fantastic, and I guess it just didn't resonate with a lot of outlets, or maybe. And look, honestly, a lot of them probably didn't even play the game,
Yeah.
So. That's
but I thought at least for art and for audio, it had a shot.
Yep.
Like, surely for those two things, like Johnny recorded so many hours of just guitar riffs and all that sort of stuff for it, and you're talking about music, like such an unbelievable infusion of music with the game, because the guy that made the game, the developer, is also in a rock band.
Yeah.
Making a game about rock and roll music, and it's like, come on. Like, I would have thought Artful Escape would have got the nod in one of those two, but what do you do? Anyway, like Dim said, don't put too much stock in it. Phalaxis, morning gents. Have you been watching The Ashes? Will we ever get a decent cricket game? I guess the Big Ant Studio attempts haven't been too bad, but I feel cricket games years ago were much, much better, besides graphics. Are you like me, Dim? Are you like one of the only Melburnians that doesn't give a rat's about cricket?
No, I love cricket.
Really?
So I will tell you, I'm not watching this first test, but one of my traditions is to get up early and watch the day one Boxing Day test.
Boxing Day,
and I've been to a couple of Boxing Day tests in my time. I love it, man. I love cricket. It's so fun. It's such a great game.
Wow.
I mean, it's not something that I'm sitting there watching just constantly, like for 5 days, but I do like cricket.
Wow. I didn't expect that. I've never been big into cricket, like, ever. Like, I've watched the odd one-dayer here or there. Like, the one-dayers sometimes I can get into because they can get really exciting because it all has to be quick. But the tests, I'm just like my only real memory of cricket, it's something that's always stuck in my head, was the infamous 3 for 3. Remember when, who was it? Who was it that they were playing against, and they had about 3 runs, 3 wickets?
I think it was the West Indies, I want to say.
And I'm like, man.
I'm looking this up, actually.
Like, I know about cricket. I know all about it. I know the rules. I know how it works. I know what the deal is. I just have... It's Australian baseball, and I don't care about baseball either.
Yep.
Like, it's never held my interest, cricket. But I know it's big down here, and it's funny. You'd think, given the simplicity of the sport, you'd think that someone would be able to do a really high-budget looking, high-quality cricket game.
Well, I think that's what they... Yeah, I think... Look, I only really watch cricket like once a year when the Boxing Day test is on. So ever since I've lived in the US, I don't really follow cricket very much. I still love the sport, but I don't follow it very much. But I know that India tried to do that with the IPL and stuff. They tried to make it more more entertainment, more for the
Yes.
fans. The 2020 game where it was like a condensed down version.
Big Bash.
And I think there's a lot of money behind all that stuff. It's hard for me to really know and follow what's going on there, though, because I don't get to see any of that stuff.
Yeah. So are you bigger into cricket or AFL?
AFL for sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you are more into the AFL. Okay.
Oh yeah. But when I was growing up, right, like AFL would be the big winter sport, and then cricket season would start, right? So
that's right, summer sport.
Alan Border and all those guys, they were like my heroes, when I was growing up. So I used to love, when I was a kid in Australia, because you'd have cricket, then AFL, cricket, then AFL. It was just year round. So I was big into it.
I'm telling you, if when you do eventually get to come down to Melbourne, if footy season has started, we're going to the footy.
So the last time
going.
The last time I was in Melbourne was in 2019. Actually, no, it was 2019. Yeah, I always we lost like 2 whole years due to COVID, so I always have to think about how far back. And I went to see Richmond and Carlton at the G, and it was the night before we were flying back to the US. So our flight was at like 5 a.m. in the morning, something ridiculous. So I needed to be at like Tullamarine at like 3 a.m. And this footy match went on, it was a night game, so it probably finished at like 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Yeah, 10:30.
So by the time we walked to Richmond Station and got back to the house, it was like 12:30. So I was on like 2.5 hours sleep, man. But it was fun as hell. I usually try to catch a game when I'm in Melbourne. The time before we went to, I know you're going to correct me, but the Docklands Stadium, whatever it's called now.
It's now called Marvel, believe it or not.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
I think it was Etihad when I was there last.
Yep.
So we saw just a random game because I was with my brother and he was like, do you want to go catch an AFL game before you leave? And I said, yes, I'd love to. So it was like Hawthorn versus Melbourne, like 2 teams I couldn't care less about, but it's always fun going to the footy though. So
it is. If like I said, when you come down next, if the AFL is on, if you're coming during footy season, we're going to the footy.
Yeah, I usually do, unless it's during Christmas, which probably won't happen this year. But I like to catch an AFL game, so we'll do that.
No, that'd be
Carlton Richmond at the G.
Collingwood Richmond.
Sorry, Collingwood Richmond.
Collingwood Richmond at the G. That'd be massive. That'd be great. Okay, second last question. Creaky Legs. Hello lads, hope all is well. I have finally recovered from another very long Game Awards this year. I felt quite underwhelmed overall. Hellblade looked great, but it came within the first 20 minutes of the show and I pretty much felt tired the rest of it. My next favourite announcement came from the pre-show, which feels like such a crap thing to have announcements and awards in. Makes it feel like everything there is of lesser importance. I had a small glimmer of hope and excitement when I saw Final Fantasy Remake, but then seeing it's only coming to Epic Games Store and still not Xbox, I felt depressed afterwards. I have no idea if that has anything to do with Sony having a $200+ million stake in Epic, and maybe they have some kind of say in where it can go. Since they basically own the franchise and Square just keeps it in their house on display to look pretty when the shareholders visit after they take whatever check Sony pulls out of their hat for the next game. Then Persona 4 Golden Ultimax announced for everything but Xbox. Like Xbox isn't even worth giving the scraps. Did Game Pass ruin some of these relationships with publishers in some way? Like, was Persona on the table at one point, then Sega started getting big checks for Yakuza and suddenly went, actually, let's wait for that next Game Pass check to put Persona on Xbox. Then Square thought the same thing, and so on. Is this generation going to be Sony money-hating for dear life to pad out their library each year to keep up with Xbox's game release momentum they're struggling to get into? Then 2 years later, maybe Xbox cuts a check, gets in Game Pass, and the hungry shareholders get to eat well because they pretty much got more money between Xbox and Sony without even selling the games themselves first. Also, quick aside, do you think eventually they'll shut the servers down for the Xbox One version of Halo Infinite in, say, 2 years? Because waiting for players to load into these matches sometimes for 5 minutes or more is getting tiresome now. Sorry for the long rant. Keep up the great work. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. When I saw Final Fantasy Remake make an appearance, I'm like, God, is this really on Xbox? Because I had been told a while back, I didn't get told that Final Fantasy VII Remake will never come to Xbox. I just got told it's highly unlikely. So when I saw the trailer start, I'm like, oh God, is it actually coming? And then when I saw Epic, I'm like, okay. So clearly what's happened here is, this is what I think's happened. Sony doesn't want to relinquish it. They don't want to let it go to Xbox. So what they've done is they've said, okay, we'll let it go to Epic in order to keep delaying it from being on Xbox. Like, that's our compromise. That's what I reckon has happened there, but...
Seems like it. I mean, it seems like we may never see it on Xbox.
Nah, I wouldn't hold my breath for it.
Yep.
When it comes to Persona 4 Gold and Ultimax, that's another weird one. That game is on 360. So if you don't want to port it to Series X, that's fine. So then let the 360 version go backwards compatible and be FPS boosted and res boosted and all that sort of stuff. And that way you don't have to worry about it. Xbox is doing all the quote-unquote porting work. All you have to do is give them the okay. Like, it just seems...
Get Jason
odd.
back on the show. Let's ask him.
Well, maybe Persona 4 Gold and Ultimax was one of the games that didn't work properly when they tried. Because he did mention on the show, I mean, you saw it. He said some games just flat out broke for whatever reason, or they hit a specific point where something might go wrong, or whatever. So it could be that maybe that's one of the games. I don't know. As to Halo Infinite, shutting down the servers for the Xbox One version. I don't know if they'll do that.
I think they're both... Aren't they both the same servers anyway? Like, they're...
Yes.
I think they're the same. I mean, there's probably a group that are, of their Azure services that are, geared for the Xbox One stuff. I guess they could do that, but I don't think there's any real distinguishing features between the two as far as the servers are concerned.
No, I know, but the problem is, I know what he's getting at, because right now, anyone who plays Halo Infinite multiplayer knows that you hit a point where it loads the map, it loads the mode, and then all of a sudden you get stuck on this message at the bottom that says waiting for other players. That's the Xbox One players that you're waiting for. So he's saying, are we really going to tie down everyone to those people for the next 5-10 years? Or at some point, are we going to ditch them? Surely they have to get ditched at some point.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
get them out of there.
And you have to wonder if there's a small element of either bad timing or old Microsoft where they're not talking to each other properly. But so I've always said ditch Xbox One for Halo. Give Halo the best chance possible, ditch Xbox One. And we said, why not get an xCloud app on Xbox One and let Xbox One players play newer games via that? Now look at the timing. Yeah. That app does exist now, and it's come out around the same time Halo did. So they kind of could have ditched Xbox One and let Xbox One players play Halo via that Xbox Cloud app.
Yeah, I kind of felt like maybe once they delayed Halo last year that they would just announce that it was just going to be exclusive to Xbox, and then offer up the cloud version for the legacy stuff. But yeah, I mean, again, we're not privy to the marketing and the numbers that Microsoft have around it. But hey,
he's probably got a point.
Yeah, I agree.
He's probably right. In a year or two, what they'll probably do is, and hopefully it's like a year or less, they'll say, yep, if your account has purchased Halo Infinite, then you'll be able to stream the whole lot. Multiplayer campaign. Because right now, to use the xCloud app, you have to have Game Pass Ultimate.
Yes.
But you can't force people onto Game Pass Ultimate like that. So they'll probably just be like, Halo multiplayer is free to play, so that you can play on the xCloud app, and that's the only thing you can play on the xCloud app. If you've bought the campaign, you can do the whole lot via the app. I don't know, have you tested out the xCloud app?
I know someone that has played Halo through
it's
xCloud.
Quite good.
It's actually, and they were doing pretty well on the KDR, right? Like they weren't like getting destroyed or anything. There's a little bit of lag. I mean, it comes with the territory, but overall, apparently it's a pretty good experience. I haven't tried it personally, but I've heard good things about it.
because now that multiplayer is out, I deleted Halo 5 because all I was doing with Halo 5 was playing SWAT multiplayer. That's all I was doing. So I've deleted it, and I'm like, you know what? I'll try it via cloud. Why not? Just to see what it's like. And I started playing through the campaign of Halo 5, and I was really surprised at how it looked and felt.
Yeah.
Like I was expecting it to be a horrible experience. And I was shocked at how good it was. I tried Banjo Kazooie, which just looked... So I think a lot of it depends on the game you're playing too.
Yep.
So the less intensive the game, the better the experience. So playing Banjo Kazooie, I swear if you hadn't... Like, if you just wiped my memory and gave me the controller and said, play Banjo-Kazooie, I would not have known that it was on cloud. That's how good Banjo-Kazooie looked and played. It just looked and played native.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, the technology's really come a long way.
Yeah.
Yep. There's only a really small amount of compression that you can see if you capture the gameplay and everything and blow it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty good tech.
Yeah, and it'll only get better with time. So maybe that's what they'll do. They'll wait for the tech to get to a point. They'll probably test the living crap out of it. And as soon as they feel comfortable where Halo Infinite feels and looks almost native on that cloud app, on the Series console or on consoles, they'll probably be like, all right, if you're on Xbox One now, you have to play Halo via that app or something like that. Because, yeah, you can't have everyone tied down for the next 10 years waiting for other players that are sitting there on VCR Xbox Ones. Like, you just can't do that anymore. Okay, last question. This show actually did end up being longer than I thought.
I
Top.
talk a lot.
No, that's fine. I just thought that because I'm not good at hosting that it would just be super short and I would burn through everything too quick. Turns out that wasn't the case. Keeping it short this week. If you could change one thing about each of the current gen consoles, what would it be? PS5, Series X, and Switch. Wow, what a loaded question that is.
I would give
such a loaded question.
I would give the Switch more memory and more power.
Yep.
I guess that's two things. Let's say if it is one thing, I would give it more memory. I would give the Xbox.
Hold on, why memory over power?
Because a lot of the problems with third-party ports is memory related.
Oh, okay.
Because it all has to do with streaming assets and things like that. I mean, look, sure, having more CPU power would be huge, but if you don't have the memory, you're still kind of bottlenecked. So I think for me, it's really about having more RAM. On the Xbox, I mean, that's easy. We just talked about it. Remove the ridiculous activation.
Yeah, the online.
And on the PlayStation, I mean, for me, it's a little nitpicky, but like either add VRR, which I know they're going to do, but let's assume that's already coming. Just make the DualSense battery life last longer, because like I don't know how yours is, but
mine's okay. It's so weird.
I get like 2 hours tops out of mine. I got to recharge. No, I'm serious.
Really?
Dude, I'm serious. I feel like I have a defective one or something.
Yeah, I was about to say that sounds like a fault, man. Like it's funny when I hear the complaints that I hear about the PS5. I feel lucky. Like I didn't get any of the stuff that most people experience. Like I don't have the coil whine.
I have
my
that.
DualSense battery life is... Oh, you've got that too?
Yep.
I don't have the coil whine. My DualSense lasts a reasonable amount of time. I wouldn't call it good battery life, but compared to what I'm hearing, like stories like yours, mine's much better than that. Like people keep complaining about rest mode. I've never had an issue with rest mode on my PS5.
I refuse to use rest mode on my PS5. I refuse to use it.
Again, mine has been perfect. I've never had a problem. My PS5 had issues for the first month where it just kept doing the database rebuild and kept crashing. Like the console itself, not the games, but the actual console just kept doing a database rebuild and I couldn't understand it. And then there was one firmware update that came out, fixed it.
Yep.
Same with the controller. I had a problem where the controller would just lose connection and I couldn't get it back. I had to completely resync the controller. And that's one thing about the PS5. On Xbox and on Switch, we can... Well, okay, we can update our controllers wirelessly, but on PS5 we still have to connect a cable. Like, I find it crazy that we still need a cable to even hook up our controllers to our consoles.
Yeah.
And Xbox hasn't needed that for nearly 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, man, get with the times. One thing I could change. On the PS5, easy. The UI. The UI is terrible. It is one of the worst console UIs I've ever used in my life. It looks nice, and it's great that it's native 4K, and it's smooth, and it's fast, and it's this, and it's that. But in terms of its usability and functionality, it is a shocking UI and one of the worst I've ever used in my life. On the Switch, I don't know. Some of the issues were addressed with the OLED, like the kickstand, because that original kickstand is a disgrace. Yeah, for me, the Switch, I guess it would just be more power. It would be nice if the Switch was a console that could consistently do 1080-60 on its games. That's it. That's all I'd want from the Switch. On the Xbox side of things, I don't know what I'd change, to be honest.
You'd probably want Kinect back, knowing you.
I would like Kinect back. For me, the first thing that comes to mind without thinking about it too much, I'd love haptics in the controller.
That's a really good pick, actually.
Like, you know, the Switch had the haptics first, the HD Rumble they called it, and I loved it. I loved playing 1-2 Switch, that mini game where you got to shake it's like you're shaking the bottle and there's ice in there. That just, I love cool little stuff like that. Astrobot is an unbelievable use of the haptics. I feel, to me personally, the haptics actually do genuinely enhance immersion with a game when they're done properly. The analog triggers, the resistive triggers or adaptive triggers, whatever they're called, are the worst thing ever. Like, I don't want those to be copied. They're just dumb. But I would love it if Xbox ended up... And everyone says, oh, the Elite 3, the Elite 3. I don't think the haptics should be restricted to just a $250 controller. Especially one with build quality as bad as the Elite controllers have. I would hope that Microsoft just turn around, be up front and go, you know what? Maybe we misread the market on that one. Probably should have put haptics in the controller. From here on out, all new Xbox controllers will also have haptics. And they just start building them with the haptics built in. Because then you've got the haptics in all 3 of the major consoles, which means more developers are going to implement it.
Yep.
So that's probably mine that I can think of off the top of my head, because there's not much else wrong with the console itself, I don't think. So haptics in the controller for me. That's mine. Yeah, that's it. So I think that was also the last community question. So we've come to an end, and wow, we've still ended up nearly clocking in at 2.5 hours. Wow. Well, there you go. But anyway, so I guess wrapping up, I just want to say the Kickstarter, while we are funded, there's still like nearly 2 weeks to go. So it's not like you're missing out on being able to get a copy of the book if you want one. So keep going. The Kickstarter is still up for another 2 weeks. Dim, if you want to plug anything like your channel or anything you're working on or whatever it is.
Thanks for having me on, Nick. It was always
no worries.
Fun. Always fun hanging out with you guys.
No, I love having you on.
I really enjoyed our chat for the last 2.5 hours. As far as we can find me, I'm on Twitter at ModernVintageG. So if anyone wants to hit me up there with a follow, that's where I'm most active. Obviously, I have a YouTube channel as well, Modern Vintage Gamer. I release a video every single Monday, so check that out if you're into cool retro tech and getting nerdy and geeky with all things retro and modern. I'm the channel there. Have a really cool video coming out on Monday about a product that's under embargo right now, but it's very, very something that a lot of people will be interested in. So check out the channel. And other than that, yeah, man, that's about it. Yeah.
You know what? I literally just remembered something. So someone in one of our chats a few weeks back wanted to ask something about what Night Dive was working on. I just remembered.
Yep.
He wanted an update on Shadow Man.
Okay.
I've just remembered that. And I'm like, oh, we've got MVG on in a few weeks' time. We'll ask him about it. And I just remembered now.
I will tell you that there are console versions in the works right now. More to come.
Awesome. Okay. So initially it was announced for PC only?
Yeah, so we released the PC version back in April or May, I think it came out.
Oh, so it came out on PC?
Yeah, it's already out on PC, but
okay.
the console versions were still being developed, but stay tuned, there is more to come there.
Well, there you go. I can't even remember who it was that asked us. I just remember someone asked us in the chat, oh, what's going on with Shadow Man? And I was like, oh, well, we've got Dim on in a few weeks. We'll ask him. So there you go. There's our update on Shadow Man. So, you know where to catch Dim. You know where to catch us. If you want to support us and you can spare a coffee a week, contribute to the Patreon. We're still giving away copies of Omega Rally Championship for every patron that signs up. Whether it's the tip jar, whether it's the highest tier, whatever, everyone gets a copy of Omega Rally Championship from our friend Anorexic. But yeah, don't forget to do all those things. The likes, the subscribes, the follows, all that sort of stuff. Hopefully I haven't done too terrible of a job while John is gone. John will be back next week before I am then on my own again with Jeff Grubb. It's just going to be me and Jeff. And I also managed to convince Jeff to make it an annual event. So every Christmas, it's going to be an episode with just me and Jeff Grubb. Or Jeff Grubb and I, sorry. So you'll be able to catch that in a couple of weeks. Other than that, I don't think I've forgotten everything. Thank you to Jesse, our producer.
You're welcome.
No worries. Thanks, mate. So hopefully we'll speak to you all soon, guys. And we'll catch you next week. Ciao for now.
Ciao, Nicta.